Shem Hashem Na'aseh V'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We are back to our weekly shiur, Stump the Rabbi, where after some divrei Torah, B'ezrat Hashem, you guys will ask some questions, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us the answers, B'ezrat Hashem. So tonight's shiur, B'ezrat Hashem, will be for Refuah Shlema, for Rabbanit Levana Bat Sarah, Sarah Bat Levana, Rav Ephraim Ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah Bat Anat, Avimori David Ben Esriya, Doris Bat Jora, Orit Bat Ilana, Batya Bat Sarah, Tinok Ben Batya, and also for Atzlacha Rabba of Marsha Bat Julie, Ayla Bat Marsha, Samuel Ben Marsha, Cephas Ben Marsha, Alexander Ben Marsha, Louis Ben Marsha, Amir Ben Shaheen, Shaul Ben Farzane, Yitro Ben Avraham, David Ben Esriya, Oshri Ben Doris, Gary Ben Doris, Elad Ben Doris, and all of Am Yisrael that are supporting the Torah and doing mitzvot, and especially the ones that are helping our organization, and of course all of the righteous Noahides that watch our shurim and support and spend time getting other people closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So, B'ezrat Hashem, we have a Parashat Vayigash, and to be honest with you, I am so excited about the chidush that I had today that I just want to dance. But I'm going to leave you in suspense because it has to do with this, not only with this parasha, but it comes at the end. It comes at the end of the parasha. It comes at the end of the parasha. When I had this chidush just earlier today, I started to dance. It's just that good. Of course, everybody's going to have their perspective, but I highly doubt anyone is not going to get shocked when they hear this. But we have to get there. We have to build it up to there. We have to learn. As the Gemara in Masechet Megillah, V'yagata v'matzata ta'amin, Yagata v'lo matzata al ta'amin. If you toiled in Torah and you got to something good, I believe you. But if you didn't toil in Torah and you tell me that you know Torah, I don't believe you. Why? That's not how you learn Torah. That's not how you get knowledge of Torah. Some people pretend like they know Torah because they just feel like God speaks to them. These are delusional people. These are people that need to be put in an institution. They're a danger to themselves and to society. Only way that you gain Torah is by learning Torah. And learning, not just learning when you learn superficially, but learning and toiling. And once in a while, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, B'kvodo Be'atzmo, gives you an insight that is your chidush from Shamayim. The Zohar HaKadosh says that there are insights, there are new insights, new chidushim, that only you can bring into the world. And therefore, when a person goes up to Shamayim, if they toiled and they brought all those chidushim, they get rewarded handsomely. Because why? They magnified the Torah. As they say, la'agdil Torah ve'la'adir, to make the Torah greater and more glorified. But if they did not toil in Torah and therefore did not get those chidushim to the world, they get rebuked, they get punished. Why? You were responsible for new insights that were supposed to magnify the Torah, and you didn't do it. Therefore, you did the opposite. Shem Yishmor. So a person that is going to learn Torah has to know that it's not you're not doing anybody a favor by learning Torah. You're doing yourself a favor. But let's get on with the Parashat Vayigash. I'll be honest with you, I'm so excited about this chidush, I can't even think about anything else. But B'ezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will help me think about everything else until we get to the chidush. So, we have Parashat Vayigash. I don't know when I was this excited about a chidush. It's been a long time since I had something like this. And I don't know, it's not even a matter of hoping that you like it or don't like it. To be quite frank with you, I'm so excited about it, I don't care whether anyone likes it or doesn't like it, because it's to me as clear as the heavens. But sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu lets you see who's the Baal HaBayit, who owns the house. And it's mamash like a I don't know how to explain it. I honestly don't know how to explain it. If you guys weren't waiting for a chidush, and instead you were waiting for somebody to dance, I'd be the dancer right now. That's how excited I am about this chidush. But anyway, let's get on it. Let's get on it. Be'ezrat Hashem. Okay, so we have last week's parasha. We had Parashat Miketz. We have one of the most dramatic stories in the Torah, where after the brothers sell Yosef, we have the whole jail sentence that he serves, and for 12 years he's in prison. Then he Vayiritzu min abor, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the sentence from HaKadosh Baruch Hu was complete, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed us an insight of how decrees work from heaven, where when somebody has a terrible time, has a difficulty, has some type of disaster, they need to know that the moment that disaster was decreed, the end of that disaster was also decreed. And we learned that from last week's parasha, where it says that Vayiritzu min abor, that they hurried him out of the hole. The jail over there was a hole in the ground, a huge, enormous, filthy, disgusting hole with a lot of criminals in there. But when the decree from heaven was over, they hurried him out of that hole. Why? Because he no longer belongs in that decree, in that evil decree, in that terrible decree, in that nightmare of a life that he lived for 12 years. The decree is over, therefore you cannot suffer for an extra minute more than it was decreed for you in Shamayim. This should give hope to anybody out there that is suffering through any type of trouble, whether it's a heartache or a headache or whatever ache. You should know that that trouble will be over. And quite frankly, if a person does not know that the trouble that they're dealing with will eventually be over, it is very, very easy to become suicidal. Simply because when a person doesn't think that their life will ever get better, and in fact the misery that they're in is a permanent misery, it becomes impossible to get your head around it and to rationalize a reason to live. Of course, if a person has Torah in their life, these types of arguments do not cross their mind. I have my mother's sister, older sister, Viola Shetichye. She's a extraordinary tzaddiket. She did tshuva many years ago, and she was one of those special tzaddikot that you don't need much before you realize this is a very special person. But my aunt, she has a life that's literally like the modern day Job, just for a woman. Terrible difficulties that she's had, where you had her oldest son was imprisoned for a crime that, after sitting in prison a life sentence of over 20 years that he's been in prison, they just discovered that the whole thing was a setup and he did not commit the crime. Meaning he's been sitting in prison for over 20 years for nothing, for absolutely nothing. And Baruch Hashem, one of the good things that happened is that he did serious tshuva in that prison, which is a miraculous story of itself. Ended up getting married. A really special story, but nonetheless, after they discovered that the whole thing was a setup, that the part of the setup came from the police itself that hated the family, still, they did not release him. They still have not released him from prison because they want to go through the miserable process. This is all over Israeli news over the last couple of years. This is one of my cousins. Then, aside from that, her one of our second oldest son, he Shem Yishmor, he was a fantastic human being. I remember when we were little kids, we used to look up to them. They were like the Giburim. They were like the heroes of the city of Netanya. It's one of these just special people, really warm hearts. And of course, we all got in trouble. We all did stupid things. But nonetheless, when a person is good, they're good. And Tzachi, alav shalom, he one day got into a motorcycle accident and died. Shem Yishmor v'yatzil, just not too many years ago. If that wasn't bad enough, I think it was within like a year or so of that happening, her husband died. And on and on and on and on. I mean, I could literally, the amount of difficulties that she has had in her life is really unimaginable. And I only know an ounce of it because I'm not there and I'm not as involved, but I just hear from time to time different things. But I remember when I went to Israel several years ago, and I really wanted to make it a point to see her because I haven't seen her in many, many years, over 20 years, almost probably 25 years, something like that. And I went to see her, and such a special tzadikah, such a special woman. And I've always admired her, even when I was a little kid. I always admired how she was modest and put together, even when I didn't know what modesty was. And I remember when I went to Israel, and she heard me say divrei Torah. She was so excited about it that literally, you see, she just started crying. Her and my other aunt, Rachel and Viola and Dina. My mother has, Baruch Hashem, a big family of sisters and a couple of brothers. And when I saw them, it was very exciting. But when I heard something that she said, I believe to my mother at some point, or to somebody else, that she said that or I think she even said it to me. Either way, it's imprinted in my mind for years. That if it wasn't for her yirat shamayim, her fear of the Almighty, her fear of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, her love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, surely she would have committed suicide a long time ago. And that's one of the scariest, most real statements you could ever hear. And the reason why is because when you feel pain, no one else can solve it for you. You feel pain, and there are certain things that are unsolvable. And when a person does not have any hope that this pain will eventually be over, the decree will be over at some point, it's very easy to become suicidal unless you have Torah. When you have Torah, you know that this world is simply a temporary world. You're not living here forever. Therefore, any decree that you have, regardless of what it is temporary with the longest amount of time that it can be. It's just your lifetime. And needless to say, most decrees are much, much shorter than your lifetime. So the decree on Yosef Tzaddik was a heavy decree. He had to be surrounded by criminals and garbage for many years. But then when it was over, HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed us that when it's over immediately. After that, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu turned the prisoner into the Viceroy, the most powerful man in the world, not just Egypt, but the most powerful man in the world in the making. Initially, he became the most powerful man in Egypt, but then in this week's parasha, he becomes the most powerful man in the world. And it's with this particular parasha that we will learn how to invest. Many, many people have asked me over the years how to invest in the market, how to make a lot of money, and so on. I generally do not like to speak about my business of the past as far as how to do things. Number one, because it's not what I do anymore. I don't invest in the market, not a dollar, not a penny, not a nothing. I don't follow nothing. Once in a blue moon, somebody tells me what's happening, but generally speaking, I don't follow. And number two, I know what it comes with, meaning when you give people advice, it comes with baggage. It comes with baggage because if it works, no one's ever going to be grateful. They all own the idea because everyone thinks that the more money they have, the smarter they are. But then they'll come back to you for more and they'll keep bothering you forever. And if it doesn't work, Hashem Yishmor v'yatzil, they'll never stop bothering you again. So in so many words, I simply don't do it. Especially since it's a responsibility, it's a headache. I already have enough that I have to deal with. And quite frankly, if I'm not getting paid for it, why would I do it? There's no benefit to it. It's not going to help anybody's life. And if you tell me, no, but if I make more money, then I'll donate more money, spare me the nonsense. You could sell that to some homeless person that has no brain, no experience, and is gullible to believe that's stupidity. Anyone that wants to donate is welcome to donate. Anyone that doesn't want to donate, don't worry. It's not going to hurt us in any way. We simply feel bad that you don't have the merit to donate. But the reality is that there's been many times that people have asked me to, help them with investing. And today you're going to get a shiur about investing. But it's not going to be your traditional shiur. I'm not going to start showing you charts. I'm not going to tell you to follow any particular pattern. I'm going to tell you a foolproof system of how to invest in anything in the world. If you follow this system to the T, there's a certainty that, according to the statistics, that you will succeed. If you do not follow it to the T, then you will not succeed. Meaning, it's not guaranteed because obviously you could potentially pick bad investments. But the strategy itself is foolproof. It's the way that the most successful people in history have invested, whether it's be the ones that you know of today, such as the Warren Buffetts or the top hedge fund managers in the world, or it is the former tycoons, the Rothschilds and the other tycoons that have lived over the years. Now, in reality, none of them invested anything because all of it is in the Torah. As I always tell you, what I learned one thing early on, and I see a proof of it in every single week, every single time I learn Torah. Everything is in the Torah. Afoch ba ve'afoch ba dekula ba, says the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot. Toil in it and toil in it because everything is in it. Literally everything is in it, including this you. Now, anyone that wants to learn something, if they're going to learn it from some flesh and blood person that has wisdom that he gained throughout the world, you can gain certain things, you can lose certain things. But when you learn something from the Torah, it's guaranteed success. Why? Because it becomes divine. It's the divine instructions. And of course, many people that have listened to the Torah succeeded extraordinarily. And one of the places we see is in this week's parasha. So after the whole craziness that happened last week, where we saw that the brothers come to buy food, and then Yosef tries to see whether they have done tshuva for selling him 20 years before that or not, whether they're still adamant about their mistake or not. He wants to check. And the way he checks is by asking them to go bring their younger brother, which is his full brother, both from the mother and the father, whereas the rest of the brothers are only common father, Yaakov, and he wants to see Benjamin. And of course, in order to trap Benjamin, in order to see what the brothers will do if the circumstances were the same, meaning that Benjamin could potentially be his new slave, Yosef's new slave, which at this point they believe he's a pharaoh, he's a viceroy of Egypt. So, with that being said, we start into this week's parasha. It says, "Vayigash elav Yehuda v'yomer Adoni, yedaber na avdecha davar beoznei Adoni ve'al yicharapecha be'avdecha ki kamocha keParo." Then Yehuda approached him, meaning he approached Yosef, not knowing that he's Yosef yet. He approached Yosef and said, "If you please, my Lord, may your servant speak a word in my Lord's ears, and let not your anger flare up at your servant, for you are like Paro. You are like Pharaoh." What does it mean you're like Pharaoh? What does it mean you're like Pharaoh? You're powerful. Why is Yehuda? Yehuda was a lion, was a gibor. The Yalkut Me'am Loez says that when there was the wars of the tribes, when the tribes went to war with the different nations of Canaan, after the whole thing that happened with Dinah being raped, and then Shimon and Levi destroyed the whole city of Shechem, the nations of Canaan all attacked the family. Because it says, not who gave you guys permission to go kill one of our friends? You killed an entire people because they raped one girl. What are you guys doing? So they sent their entire armies full of giants, armies full of weapons, huge monsters, all types of things. Anyone that reads the Midrashim, literally it puts all of the superhero films you've ever watched to shame. It's the stuff that's in the Torah, Rabotai Yekarim. They haven't thought about it in Hollywood, and quite frankly, if you actually look deep enough into the people that actually originated the stories of the superhero films of today, you'll see that practically every one of them is a former yeshiva bachur that went off the derech and went into Hollywood. That's actually what happened. Either that or they learned from somebody that's a former yeshiva bachur. Pretty much all of the stories come from the Torah. And because they stopped learning, apparently they haven't come up with all of the stories from the Torah, because the stories of the wars of the tribes are some of the most fantastic stories out there. Either way, Yehuda, when he would fight these huge warriors and giants, he would be literally like the equivalent, lehavdil, of the fake superhero in the films called the Incredible Hulk, where he was powerful, he would roar, and literally buildings would be destroyed as a result of his roar. He would hit something and destroy many things. Literally, in one day, in one of the wars, he killed 30,000 people by himself. I mean, real details they have, exact figures, exact places, exact times, a lot of really details that you can't just come up with out of your imagination. Another interesting feature that Yehuda had is that when he would roar, there would be a piece of copper that came out of his body. All types of interesting things. So this Yehuda is now in a argument, and he's coming to Yosef, the viceroy, and he says, "You are like Paro. Let me tell you something, you're like Paro. Now, if you're trying to pick a fight with me, how are you insulting me by telling me you're like Paro? How are you insulting me by telling me like Paro? If you're trying to fight with me, trying to argue with me, saying that I'm like Paro, I mean, technically that could be a death sentence, because you're in essence embarrassing the king, which is Paro himself. So if you're trying to fight with me, I mean, I guess perhaps you're asking for a death sentence. But if you're trying to appease me, how is telling me that I'm like Paro going to help our little argument?" And this is one of the secrets that you learn from here, where any time a person has the Torah in his mind, they're able to contain themselves. Even at a moment of truth, a difficult moment where you really have the desire to argue, but you know that arguing is not going to get you anywhere good. You need to contain yourself. So what do? Try to get to a reasonable stand. Now, but if you're dealing with somebody that is in a more powerful position than you, or perhaps a person that thinks that they're better than everybody else, one of the ways that you can calm them down is simply by giving them a compliment. Giving them a compliment, giving them a little bit of kavod. And that's in essence what Yehuda is doing here, strategizing by saying, "Listen, you are like Paro, you're powerful. You are so powerful, you have whole countries and everything else. We're nothing, we're just regular people. We made a mistake. I'll be your slave. Don't take the little boy. He has to go back to his father." And he starts the argument, which even though he is very commanding and he's stern with everything that he's saying, he is trying not to fight, because he believes that this decree is certainly from God, and therefore, okay, you're right, we're wrong, and we're going to follow according to the Torah. We stole, there's a decree, there's a rule of the land, we're going to follow the rule of the land. But let's please be reasonable. You're Paro, you are very powerful. At the very least, take me instead of the boy. Why? Because if the boy doesn't come back, my father's going to die. Because my father is so deeply connected to him spiritually that he literally would die. He would die from pain if he does not see his young boy come back home. And Yehuda keeps his composure, and tries to reason with Yosef. לא יוכל הנער לעזוב את אביו ועזב את אביו ומת. So here we also learn another secret where in the first chapter in verse number 22, it says, Yehuda says that we said to my Lord, the youth cannot leave his father, for should he leave his father, he will die. Now, the fact that the father that Yaakov loves his son, fine, we understand that. But why would the youth die? Why would the youth die? Because his father loves him. So this is where you have to read the commentaries. Now, you're not going to find it in any commentary. You're going to find it if you study. You study Torah, you're going to see the same places that I said. If you go to Yalkut Me'am Lo'ez, you go to Midrash Rabbah, you go to many of the Midrashim, you're going to see that each one of the tribes, not just Yehuda, each one of the tribes had certain powers, and the power that Benjamin had is that he would turn into a werewolf. Literally, he would turn into a werewolf at night. And that's why the blessing that Yaakov gives the son, and the sign and the flag of Benjamin is the wolf. So the point is that Benjamin would actually turn into a werewolf, and the reason why Yaakov was scared to let him go with the brothers to Egypt was because every night he would turn into a werewolf, and since he was still young and not at his full strength and does not have all the protection and everything else that some of the older brothers have, some of the strength that the older brothers had, Yaakov was afraid that if the Egyptians found out that he's a werewolf, they'd kill him. So that's why if he left my father, he would die. Why? Because Yaakov himself was a hero. Yaakov himself was a hero, was a powerful person that we already learned from the previous parashot, where before he went to the house of Lavan, he was able to pick up a boulder that that all of the people together had to pick up together. He was able to fling it like a bottle cap. So he was a very powerful person, and also when he went to the wars with all of the nations of Canaan, Yaakov had a bow and arrow, a special bow and arrow, where this bow and arrow was simply like the unending missile. He would simply send an arrow, and the arrow would simply just non-stop killing people. One arrow would kill thousands of people. Unbelievable, hundreds of people. So the things that you saw, you learned from this. So he's like, wow, why would anybody ever watch television when you have such beauty in the Torah itself? When you have such beauty in the Torah, quite frankly, when you watch some of these movies, you compare them to the Torah, you say, listen, the Torah, first of all, is a lot more realistic, even with the supernatural stuff. And two, they shortchange the stuff that's in the movies is not anywhere near what's in the Torah. Torah is much better. Anyway, here we have this whole thing where Yehuda is trying to appease this viceroy. Now, after the viceroy, which is Yosef, says, no, you said, Yeshevna avdecha tachat anar, please let your servant remain instead of the youth. Yosef says, no, I can't do that. Can't do that. He's going to be my servant. He's going to be my servant, not anybody else. And at that moment, that's when the battle got heated. Because that's when Yehuda saw that this cannot be from heaven. This cannot be from heaven. Why? Because it no longer made sense. If you were really just looking to get a servant because you feel like you have been taken advantage of, fine. So take me as a servant. Clearly I'm more powerful than Benjamin, Yehuda says. I'm smarter than him. I have more experience than him. I'm the leader of the tribe. I'm going to be your servant. But since you don't want me and you insist on having him, obviously you have bad intentions. You have evil intentions, strange intentions. This cannot be from Hashem. This is not a decree from Shamayim. There's something wrong here. And that's when the battle gets heated. And he starts preparing for battle. First thing, he tells Naphtali, the Midrash says he tells Naphtali, go around all of Egypt. Tell me exactly how many cities it has and how many points of attack we have to go. Naphtali had a speed that he would be able to go around the entire city in moments. I think in today's comics, Havdalah world, they call that some guy named Flash. Naphtali went, in a matter of moments, he came back, reported to Yehuda that there are 12 places in Egypt. Yehuda says to each one of the brothers, you take that city, you take that city, you take that city, I'm going to take 2 cities. Everybody has one, I'm going to take 2. And now you have a fight, he tells Yosef. If you do not agree to the terms I'm pleading with you, we will destroy all of Egypt and we'll start off by killing you. At that moment, Yehuda tries to take out his sword and he's not capable of doing it. He's not capable of doing it. Then there's a roar that's unlike anything they've ever heard outside of their own house, coming from Yosef's son Menashe. The roar that shook the entire place made an earthquake. And at that second, Yehuda understood, this is not coming from the Goyim. This is from the house of Yaakov. What is this? What is this roar? What is this power? How are they stopping me? Where is this Yosef getting this power? And it says that Yosef, v'lo yachol Yosef litapek lekol hanitzavim, because he sees his brothers are ready to fight for Benjamin. They're ready to fight, they're ready to die for him, they're ready to do everything, they're not going to let him go. And he sees, they're not going to repeat the mistake they made over 20 years ago with me. They're not going to repeat the mistake. They feel the pain. They're willing to die just not to make the same mistake. It says that Yosef could no longer restrain himself. He kicks out all of his servants. And he says one of the most emotional statements, where every single year that I read the parasha, I always start like shivering when I hear this. I start shivering, and today was no different, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem shows me that I still have some connection to the Torah, Baruch Hashem. And he says that ולא יכול יוסף להתאפק לכל הניצבים עליו ויקרא הוציאו כל איש מעלי. He tells he can't restrain himself anymore. He kicks out everybody. ויתן את קולו בבכי וישמעו מצרים וישמע בית פרעה ויאמר יוסף אל אחיו אני יוסף העוד אבי חי ולא יכלו אחיו לענות אותו כי נבהלו מפניו. He cried in a loud voice. Egypt heard and Pharaoh's household heard. And Yosef said to his brothers, I am Yosef. Is my father still alive? But his brothers could not answer him because they were left disconcerted before him. V'niv'alu mipanav. The second that Yosef said he is their brother, is the father still alive, HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed each and every single one of the brothers everything that has transpired over the last 22 years, their whole rationale of what they did, and how they made the mistake of a lifetime by selling their brother. And not only selling him, putting him in danger, throwing him into a hole full of snakes and scorpions, selling him for a disgraceful price that could not even buy a pair of shoes, because they felt that he is trying to go against the kingdom, steal the kingdom, but in reality he was simply delivering a prophecy that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him. They saw how they made a mistake of a lifetime by not going to the Gdol Hador and asking what's the Da'at Torah here. They saw how they paskined wrong. And when a person that has Yirat Shamayim realizes that they paskined wrong, realize that they just made a mistake, immediately that person has a horrible feeling. The greater the Yirat Shamayim, the greater that horrific feeling, that trepidation, that horror. But even when a person is not just looking at a single thing, but rather an entire lifetime, over 20 years of mistakes, he realizes that he made a mistake that led to more mistakes, and they've been living a life for over 20 years. They've been lying to their father for over 20 years. They've been lying to themselves for over 20 years. V'niv'alu mipanav. They got so scared at the fact that they made such a great mistake, all of them died. They all had a heart attack and died. That's what the Chachamim say. They all, v'niv'alu mipanav, they couldn't speak because they were disconcerted. What's disconcerted? They died. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu resurrected them all from the dead. Come the Baalei Musar and say to us, Oy lanu miyom adin, oy lanu miyom atochecha. Woe to us on a day of judgment, woe to us on a day of rebuke. If the brothers of Yosef that were tzaddikim, that only made a single mistake, literally died because they realized how they made a mistake. Died from that mistake. What will happen to us when we are at the Bet Din of Shamayim and HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us we lived an entire lifetime of mistakes. We didn't have Yirat Shamayim, we didn't keep Shabbat, we didn't protect our eyes, we kept looking at everything like a water fountain. Everything that moves, we looked, we kept chasing money, we were bitul Torah, we didn't study Torah like we're supposed to, we lied, we cheated, we did all these different things. But when the rabbi said, listen, you got to come to the shiur, don't worry, Rabbi, I'm coming, even though you know you're not coming. The rabbi says, listen, did you do your daf yomi? Rabbi, don't worry, I know already. You haven't learned daf yomi since it originated from Rav Shapira. The rabbi asked you, did you learn the weekly parasha? Don't worry, Rabbi, I already know it from last year. You don't even know which parasha it is and what's the name. Now you can lie to the rabbi, you could fool the rabbi, you could fool a lot of people, but at the Bet Din of Shamayim, you cannot fool anybody. And when a person is shown every single one of their lies, every single one of their actions, and every single one of their thoughts, and not only shown them, but actually is put through the motion of going through that sin, going through that emotion. When he thought about somebody else's wife, HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings his friend's wife, that person's wife, and that person, his best friend, his brother, and they witness him looking at his friend's wife, looking at his brother's wife and saying, wow, I think I should marry her. She's not good for him, she's good for me. And his brother is right next to him and says, that's what you were thinking when you look at my wife? And I invited you for Shabbos? That's what you were thinking? How could you do that? The poor tzaddikah looks at him and says, that's what you thought about me when you said thank you for the food, I liked it? You thought that maybe I would catch on? That's what you thought about? Every single one of the sins, every single one of the thoughts, the filthy, disgusting thoughts, Hashem Yishmor v'Yatzil. If we all had to report, if I had to report my own sins, forget the thoughts, just simply the sins that Hashem Yishmor that I've made in my life, there would not be enough time for the world to continue, and the list would continue. What miracle that Kadosh Baruch Hu gave me on a silver platter to allow me to do tshuva and at the very least try to fix it by getting people to do tshuva and thereby trying to sanctify His name and turn all of those sins into mitzvot, because there's simply no other way to fix it. There's no other way to fix it. You cannot simply just erase it. You can't just erase the fact that you killed a person. You shot a bullet and it hit somebody. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry is not going to bring him back to life. Same thing when it comes to wasting seed. Same things when it comes to all types of crimes. You stole money, you cheated, you lied, whatever you did, each and every single one of us has a cheshbon, has an account. And I'm talking about myself. You guys may all be tzaddikim. I don't know. I'm telling you that before I knew what the Torah is, I thought I was perfect. When I learned Torah, I realized that I will never be perfect. Not only I wasn't, I will never be perfect. And the only hope that I have is to help people do tshuva, because if I had to simply do a lecture about my own sins from the past, and it wasn't killing people, and it wasn't stealing money, and it wasn't anything against the laws of the land, but it was against the Torah. If I had to report it, there would literally not be enough ink in the world to report those sins. And needless to say, if I had to report my thoughts, may Hashem have mercy just on the thought of having those thoughts. And even more so, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to put me through the hell of actually showing me all the things that I thought of and all the things that I did and put me through it, I have no doubt in my mind I will ask him to put me in the 7th level of Gehenom and say thank you at the end. The reality is, Rabotai, that the more a person understands where they stand in reality, the more they realize how much they're obligated to love Hashem, not just fear Him, obligated to love HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the fact that He gave you the opportunity to do tshuva from all of the filth that you got yourself involved in when you lived without Him. The fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows a person like me to do tshuva, needless to say, to get people to do tshuva. HaKadosh Baruch Hu uses somebody like me that was in the 50th level of Tumah, puts me in this world to go help different people from all over the world, by the dozens, by the hundreds, by the thousands, to go come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, fight the wars of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu all the time, even if I don't have a single merit in Shamayim, let it me at least be a tool that you use to get people to serve you. Why? It simply makes life worth it. Without it, there's no reason. When a person understands what they did against their maker that gives them everything in the world, He gives you parnasah, He gives you a wife, a husband, kids, vision, and He gives you all types of things that you don't even think is a big deal. Rav Avigdor Miller says one of the easiest ways that you can fall in love in Hashem is simply by thinking about all the problems other people have and you don't. You never broke a hand. You know how many people break their hand and how much pain that is? You never broke a bone. That alone is a reason for you to love Hashem. That alone is a reason for you to love Hashem, that you never broke a bone. You know how many people suffer breaking bones? You never lost an eye. You know how many people lose their eyes? You know what kind of miserable life it is to not have eyes, to be blind. You never lost your hearing. You have your hearing. You know how many people suffer with difficult hearing or being deaf altogether? You never lost all your money. You know how many people lose all of their money? You never went lonely. You got married right away without a problem. You know how many people are still looking for a wife or a husband at later ages? When a person realizes how many problems other people have that were not decreed on them, that alone is a reason for you to fall in love with Hashem, says Rav Avigdor Miller. Alav Shalom. When a person understands what they did, instead of loving Hashem, all of the crimes they made against society, both in the world and in heaven, where instead of loving HaKadosh Baruch Hu for all of the bad things that He didn't do to you, instead we did bad things against Hashem. We did bad things against people. We were invited for a dinner, and instead of saying thank you, we were looking in the wrong places. We were invited to do business, and instead of doing business, we were stealing or looking at different ways of how to take advantage. We were invited to come eat, and instead of saying thank you for the food, we were simply criticizing everything that was there and how it's not appropriate and not up to your standards. And on and on and on. If a person simply thinks about that, immediately they should shiver, no different than how the tribes were shivering. And that's why the Baalei HaMusar says, Oy lanu miyom adin, oy lanu midom hatochacha, that if the tribes literally died from the fear of the fact that they made one halachic mistake, how are we waltzing around with full confidence that we're all going to go to heaven and not even realizing that there's not a day or even an hour that passes by without us making a mistake? How is it possible? So this is a very, very difficult rebuke. It's as truth as it gets, but it's, Rabotai, it's something that we all need to take into consideration. Now, after all of this, after this meeting, the emotional meeting, the brothers hug, after they come back to life, there's a lot of tears, there's a discussion, and before he sends them off to go bring his father, he gives each one of them gifts. And he tells them, here, this is for you, this is for you, this is for you. Each person gets 3 different suits, but Benjamin gets 5. Perhaps the reason why Benjamin got 5 is the same reason why he got 5 portions when they were eating in last week's parasha. Anyone that saw the commentary over there sees that it's while the other brothers got their portion, Benjamin got his portion like theirs, but he also got a portion from Yosef, a portion from Menashe, a portion from Ephraim, the 2 sons of Yosef, and a portion from Osnat. Osnat, the wife of Yosef, that was actually the sister-in-law of Benjamin, but also technically the close relative, because she was actually the daughter of Dinah. Now this brings us to another interesting thing, where you have this week's parasha, where you have a lot of interesting insights about powerful women in Judaism. Powerful women in Judaism that are mentioned in this week's parasha, where you have when there's they come back to Yaakov, they tell him that Yosef is still alive after a whole testing and making sure that really he's alive. Yaakov says, let's go, we're all going, and he takes the whole family, 70 nefashot, 70 people. Now, when they're mentioning in the parasha these 70 people, it says that there was a Tzochar v'Shaul ben HaKna'anit. Shaul ben HaKna'anit is one of the people. These are Reuven's sons, Shimon's sons, and Shaul ben HaKna'anit. Shaul was the son of a Canaanite woman. So the Chachamim say, what is this? Shimon, Tzaddik, one of the tribes. Could it possibly be that Shimon married a Canaanite woman, even though his grandfather, his great-grandfather, and his father forbid it? Is it possible that Shimon married a Canaanite, a cursed woman? Obviously it's not possible. So what's the truth here? The truth here is that the Canaanite woman is Dinah. Dinah, that was actually his sister from a different mother. Shimon married Dinah, and they had the son Shaul. So that's why Shaul is called Shaul, the son of the Canaanite woman, because Dinah was raped by a Canaanite, Shem ben Chamor. So because she was raped by the Canaanite, she's called the Canaanite woman. And the only reason why Shimon married her is because she was in such depression after this rape, she refused to leave the house. Because the baby that came out of that rape constantly reminded her of the rape. So Yaakov Avinu made a decree. What's the decree? We're going to take this little baby, this baby girl, we're going to send her off to Egypt. Wow, that's it. She's still part of Am Yisrael. Don't worry, Yaakov says, I got a plan for her too. He puts a special medallion on his baby, tells her exactly who she is. Then Dinah is going to restart her life, get married. Shimon agrees to marry Dinah. And they consummate the marriage, and they have a child, and that's Shaul. Shaul is the son of Shimon and Dinah. Now what happens to this little baby that goes to Egypt? She gets adopted by Potiphar. Potiphar and Eshet Potiphar. They adopt this little girl. Now one day, there's a young man named Yosef that goes into the house of Potiphar as a servant. Of course, everybody knows the story where the wife of Potiphar tries to mate with Yosef, and Potiphar himself, who was a homosexual, actually bought Yosef because he wanted to make homosexual crimes with him. Now, Chachamim also say in the Zohar Kadosh that Eshet Potiphar saw in a dream that there's going to be a lot of holy things coming from Yosef. His children have to do with the Mashiach and so on, and she wanted to be part of it, meaning it came from a good place, if you will, but she didn't realize that it's not going to be from her, but rather her adopted daughter. Why? Because after Yosef was released from the prison, remember where it says that last week's parasha, that Paro took him on his special carriage, which was there was the king's carriage, and there was the secondary carriage or replacement carriage that the king had, and he gave it to Yosef, and Yosef went to the entire city all over Egypt, and all of the people were screaming Avrech, Avrech. Now, the women that saw the beauty of Yosef threw their underwear at him. Yosef, that was a tzaddik, looked down, didn't see any of the women who were throwing their clothing at him, wanting to propose to him, wanting to marry him. But then he got a medallion thrown at him. He picks up the medallion and he sees there's Hebrew engravement on this medallion. And he says, who's this woman? Who is that woman? That's Osnat. He says, that's who I want to marry. I want to marry Osnat. That's the daughter of Potiphar, the very same guy that put me in prison because of his wife. I want to marry her. Why? Because she is the only Jew in Egypt. This also answers the question for all of those people that say, wait a minute, if Yosef married a girl in Egypt, so what? Yosef married some Gentile? No, Chababi. Nothing works like that. You just have to learn all of the behind the scenes in order to know how HaKadosh Baruch Hu manipulates the world like putty. Like putty. And he sent already the cure for the ailment 20 years before there was an ailment. 20 years before there was an ailment, he sent Osnat. And that's the other girl, that's a woman that's mentioned, Tzadikah, that's mentioned in this week's parasha. You have the Knaanit, which is Dinah. You have the Osnat bat Potifera, that's mentioned in this week's parasha. You also have Serach bat Asher. Serach bat Asher is also mentioned. Why is Serach bat Asher mentioned? There are many other sisters in the family. Why is Serach mentioned? Because Serach got a special blessing from Yaakov, her grandfather, when they gave the news to Yaakov that Od Yosef Chai, Yosef is still alive. They knew that this is big news, so it could give him a heart attack. Could be dangerous to give somebody such big news at one shot. So they sent Serach to go play a tune of music and sing for Yaakov before they gave him the news, in order to put him in a good mood so he is able to accept good news. And initially Yaakov did not realize why his granddaughter is in his Bet Midrash singing, but as soon as they came with the news in the carriages, he realized that she just saved his life. And he gave Serach bat Asher, Serach the daughter of Asher, a blessing to never die. And Serach is one of the 10 people that never died and went to heaven with her clothes on. She never died, and she's actually the one that told Moshe Rabbeinu hundreds of years later, after the whole Exodus happened, after everything happened with Egypt, with the slaves and everything else. We're talking about hundreds of years later, because Moshe Rabbeinu was born 130 years after this week's parasha. Was just born, and then he only came back to be the Mashiach that took us out of Egypt 80 years later. So we're talking about 210 years after this parasha. Serach is the one that tells Moshe Rabbeinu where Yosef's bones are buried, which was inside the Nile River because they were hiding him because the Egyptians were worshipping Yosef. Now, Serach got this blessing, another tzadikah that got an extraordinary blessing. So here we have the Dinah, we have a Serach bat Asher, we have Osnat, and then we have a fourth woman. Who is the fourth woman? Yochevet. Yochevet, the mother of Moshe Rabbeinu. Where is she mentioned in the parasha? Literally, she's not mentioned, but she's mentioned in the numbers. Where? When it says that Yaakov came to Egypt, and he gives all the numbers, and then it says Zvulun's sons and daughters are all the people, all his sons are numbered 33. What's 33? If you do the numbers of all of the different people, you see it's really 32. So Chachamim say, why is it 33? 33 because the 33rd one was born right when they got to the border or to the gates of Egypt. Yochevet was born. Yochevet was born, and then Chachamim say, wait a minute, if she was born then, that means that she gave birth to Moshe Rabbeinu when she was 130 years old. Yes. So how come the Torah didn't make such a big deal out of it, but yet it made a big deal out of Sarah giving birth at 90 years old? Couple of reasons that are very simple. Number one, the whole thing with Yochevet wasn't as miraculous as Sarah because Yochevet already had children. That's number one. Number two, Sarah did not even have a uterus. So she didn't even have the body part in her body to have a child. So the age wasn't the biggest deal out of the story of Sarah. It was a complete transformation of the body. Either way, after this, I know we're already almost an hour into the shiur and I haven't gotten to neither my chidush nor the business advice, but now we're going to get to it. Bezat Hashem. So now we have Yosef gives the brothers some insights before you go meet Paro. Make sure to tell them that you are all shepherds. Why? Because shepherds are disgusting in the eyes of the Egyptians. Toyevat Mitzrayim. Disgusting is toyeva, and there are plenty of places in the Torah where it says there are certain things that are considered toyeva. Homosexuality is a toyeva, idolatry is a toyeva, all types of things that arrogance is a toyeva. This is one of the places we learn what the word toyeva means. Is from this parasha that it's disgusting. It means disgusting, and here we're talking about how shepherds are disgusting. They're considered lower class in the eyes of the Egyptians. Yosef says, tell them that you are shepherds. Why? Because if you go into the business world with the Egyptians, Shem Yishmo, you may become an Egyptian. We don't want that. We want you to stay a Jew. What about Parnasah? Don't worry about Parnasah. We have a strategy. Vayichalkel Yosef et aviv ve'et achav ve'et kol bet aviv lechem lefi ataf. Says that Yosef sustained his father, his brothers, and all the father's household with food according to the children. Later on, it also says that Yosef gave a sustenance to all of the Egyptians, also according to the children. Why does it keep mentioning? Why doesn't it say according to the family? To show the rachmanut, the mercy of a Jew that has yirat shamayim, is not only to help somebody, but to help somebody according to their needs. There are many times people think that they're helping somebody just by giving them whatever they have. Oh, here you go, here's $20, go. And they think that's helping somebody. That's not helping somebody. When you see how Kadosh Baruch Hu helps people, he helps them according to their standards. If somebody was rich, and then Kadosh Baruch Hu decreed for that person to lose all of his money, if you're going to help him, you have to help him according to his standards. Meaning that if he's used to eating steak, you have to help him eat steak. If he's used to driving a good car, you can't just give him some garbage car and say, listen, it's better than nothing. That's not the way to help. Why? Because when HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings a salvation, he brings a salvation to each and every single person, even a person that's going through a difficulty according to their standards. I witnessed this with my own life, Baruch Hashem. I could see how HaKadosh Baruch Hu mamash nursed us and nurtured us even throughout the great decline that we had and we lost all the money and blah, blah, blah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu never put us in a situation where we had to beg for anything. Even when there were tests where there was literally zero money in the bank, still there was never any food missing. Still there was never any real feeling of true poverty. HaKadosh Baruch Hu always babied us. And that's one of the things that Yosef HaTzadik is doing here. Yosef HaTzadik is saying, listen, each one of you is not just needing of food, needing of parnasah, but also you have to get help based on the amount of kids that you have. Why? Because it's known that kids waste food. It's a well-known thing. You give a kid food. No, but I want that. Okay, here you go. Yeah, but I want that. Okay, here you go. Yeah, but I want that. But kid, you're 5 years old. You're going to eat a meal for 6 people? Yeah, I'm going to eat it. Please. I want it. Okay, fine. You give the kid all the food that he wants. He takes 3 bites and he walks away. And you have 2.5 plates of wasted food. It's a known thing. Kids waste food. Yosef HaTzadik is not just called a tzaddik for nothing. He says, if I'm going to help my brothers, I'm going to give you according to the kids, because I'm going to give you extra according to how many kids you have, because it's known that kids are going to be wasteful. I'm not going to give you, you have 5 members in your house, you have 6 members in your house, you have 8 members in the house, and everybody gets according to the members. $100 a person. No. If you have 5 members, but 3 of them are little kids, I'm going to give you a certain amount. If you have 5 members in your house, but only one of them is a kid, and the rest of them are adults, I'm going to give you a different amount. Why? Because the adults are not as wasteful. They're not as wasteful. And he gave customized solutions to each and every single person. But to show that it wasn't favoritism just for his brothers, he also did it for the Egyptians. Now, how did Yosef go to the point of teaching us how to invest in a foolproof way? Rabotai Yekarim, and also show us that the Torah is divine, unlike the Brit Chadasha, the New Testament, which we also like to call false testament, or the Quran. All of these other false documents that have nothing in it that's worth a penny. How does the Torah show us not only the strategy for success, but also that this success is guaranteed because it's coming from the Torah, and the Torah itself is divine. This is how it is. Hold on to your chairs. You're about to get a shiur that's a separate shiur of its own, but this shiur is going to prove to you 2 major points that will change your life if you take it into account. First and foremost, it says, "Vayilakhet Yosef et kol hakesef hanimtza be'eretz Mitzrayim ube'eretz Canaan b'shever asher em shovrim vayave Yosef et hakesef beita paro." So, after everybody settled down, it says Yosef gathered all of the money that was to be found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan through the provisions that they were purchasing. And Yosef brought the money into the Pharaoh's palace. What does he need all of this money? Step number 1 of investing. When things are good, the market is high, which the market was at this time when there was 7 years of sustenance. What did Yosef do that almost nobody in the world is doing today unless they're an expert investor? He gathered cash. How do you gather cash? How do you get more cash during good times? You sell. Yeah, but everybody else is buying and the market keeps going higher. Exactly. That's when it's time to sell. Your Bitcoin went from 0 to, 50,000? Sell. Yeah, but it could go to 100,000. Let it go to a zillion. Doesn't make a difference. You made your money. Move on. Where do I buy nothing? What do I buy now? Nothing. The market has gone up for 13 years straight. It's not normal. You are more likely to lose than you are to gain. Yeah, but maybe I'm going to miss out. Okay, then you're an idiot and you're going to end up losing all of your money. You don't know how to invest. What do you do in a market peak like this? You sell everything that you can as soon as you can. Why? Because it's gone to a point where you're more likely to lose than to gain. because the biggest part of the profits have already been made. Yeah, but I'm afraid of missing out. No, you're not getting the point. This is not a preservation strategy. This is a money-making strategy. How is selling everything a money-making strategy? Tune in and you'll listen and understand how this is a money-making strategy. When everything is profited, it is gained, and you've made your money, you get out. You sell your property, you sell your stocks, you sell your bitcoins, you sell your whatever else was created in the world that to make some type of fictitious money. Sell everything. Gather liquidity. And after that, step number 2, do nothing. Stay on the sidelines. Don't even watch the news. Don't buy anything. Just gather as much cash as possible and simply sit on the sidelines. That's what Yosef did. When everything was going good, Yosef gathered all of the money from everything that Egypt had and brought it to the house of Paro. After the decree of starvation, famine, everything came, Yosef had what to give the people, which is the food they needed. He had the ability to see what was going to happen before it happened, as we saw from the beginning of Parashah, from the dream of Paro. But knowledge in itself is not enough. You have to take action. And he took action, and he was able to prepare for this decline by having all of the food ready. But how did this become a money-making operation? Because Yosef gave them food, but they ran out of money. So Yosef said, okay, now that you ran out of money, now I need you to give me your properties, your animals, your everything else. Your cows are worth nothing if they're not going to eat. Your buildings are worth nothing if you're going to be dead. The market has crashed. The market has gone down 50, 60, 70%. No one wants to buy anything because everyone thinks it's going to go to zero. Yosef Tzaddik takes step number 2. All of that money that you gathered, now you buy. When nobody else wants to buy, everyone simply can't wait to sell everything they have because they think it's going to zero, because it's a major crisis. It looks like the whole world is going to get destroyed. I'm going to go back to caveman times. That's when you buy. When everyone out there is literally throwing up and just simply predicting that this horror, this depression will never end, that's when you buy. You take that cash you've been sitting with on the sidelines, and that's when you buy. You don't buy at market tops. You buy when everybody is selling at a hurry. It's a major crisis. Certain investments have gone down 80, 90%, 95%. That's when you buy. Yeah, but if it goes down another 5%, it's going to go to zero. If it's a legitimate asset, it can't go to zero. It can go lower, but not to zero. You have to obviously be a savvy investor to know what's worth what. But you have to understand that you have to do this with preparation. You can't sell when everybody else is selling and expect to make money. You have to already be sitting on the sidelines for a while. It could be even years. And then when everybody else is selling, that's when you put all of the money to work. All of the money to work. You go full in on the things that you've done research on and the things that you know what they're worth and so on. You put everything in there. And after that, you simply wait. That's what Yosef did. And it says, Vayiken Yosef et kol admat Mitzrayim leparo, ki machru Mitzrayim ish sadeu, ki chazak alehem hara'ah, v'tihi haaretz leparo. Says that Yosef acquired all of the land of Egypt for Paro. For every Egyptian sold the field because the famine had overwhelmed them, and the land became Paro's. Here we see that step number 2 of money making is to buy when everybody is selling. That is buy low, sell high. That's where it originates from in the Torah. But it's not buy low because you looked at some chart and eventually the investment is going to go lower, the stock's going to go lower. No, that's not buy low, sell high. Buy low, sell high originates from the Torah, where you are preparing by selling high first to gather cash, and then you wait until it becomes obnoxiously and irrationally low, and no one else wants to buy it. That's when you buy it. And then you reap the extraordinary profits. Why? Because eventually things normalize, and that investment that went down 90% suddenly recovers 30% of the way there. Now that may not seem like much, because if you owned it at where it was, you owned it at 100, and it went down to 10, and now it's back up to 30, the guy that owned it at 100 still down 70%. In reality, not much has changed for him. But the guy that bought it at 10 or at 12 or at 15, that guy just doubled or tripled his money. Without it recovering to where it was at some bubble price. We're not delusional to think that things will recover to where they used to be. That's not how you make money. You make money mostly by determined on your purchase price. On the purchase price, not the selling price, not the fictional price that of fluctuation every day. That's how you make money in business, regardless of whether it's real estate, stocks, or anything else in the world. It's all determined based on when you buy it. Not anything else, not the charts, not the weather, not the president, not the economy. Nothing else matters. Simply put, your purchase price will determine already whether you're going to succeed in investment or not. Again, this is based on market rationale. Everything, of course, is decreed by Kadosh Baruch Hu. Whether someone will profit or lose is determined by Kadosh Baruch Hu. But if a person puts their ishtadlut and wants to be a savvy investor, if you're already going to be in the market and you're trying to be a millionaire, know that millionaires are not being made today. Millionaires are not being made today. Millionaires that exist today already started years ago. The only people that are going to make money out of this market are people that get out of this market, completely liquidate everything, and sit on the sidelines as if they don't know what the market is. They don't know what real estate is. They don't know what stocks are. They don't know what anything is. All of their money is in cash. And they don't talk about it. They don't think about nothing until everything crashes, until they see the headlines of every newspaper that there's blood on the streets. Everybody wants to sell everything. The world is going to zero. That's when they get the money out, and that's when they start buying. And they go full all in. I've done this, Baruch Hashem, a couple of times in my career when I was on Wall Street. And that was the major success couple of times that we had, that bigger than anything else. Bigger than anything else. Now, if a person wants to do that and that alone, of course, that'll make them very successful, but it's not going to make them a likable person or a person that anyone admires. What's going to be a true success if you do step number 3? Step number 3 that Yosef HaTzadik says here, ויאמר יוסף אל העם, הם קניתי אתכם היום ואת אדמתכם לפרעה, אין לכם זרע או זרעתם את האדמה. והיה בתביעות ונתתם 5 לפרעה ו4 הידות יהיה לכם לזרע השדה ולאכלכם ולאשר בתיכם ולאכול את אפכם. ויאמרו איך איתנו נמצא חן בעיני האדוני והיינו עבדים לפרעה. וישם אותה יוסף לחוק עד היום הזה על אדמת מצרים לפרעה. ל5 רק אדמת הכהנים לבדם לא הייתה לפרעה. Here we have the last step and also the chidush of all chidushim. It was worth it to be born just to listen to this chidush. Rabotai, step number 3 of success, real success, not just monetary success, is what Yosef HaTzadik is teaching us now. Chapter 47, verse number 23, Yosef says to the people, to the Egyptians, look, I have acquired you this day with your land for Paro. Here is seed for you. Sow the land. At the ingathering of the harvest, you will give a fifth to Paro. The other 4 parts shall be yours, as seed for the field, and food for yourselves, and for your household, and to feed your young ones. Remember what we said about extra for the young ones, because they waste. And they said, you have saved our lives. May we find favor in your eyes, my Lord, and we will be serfs to Paro. So Yosef imposed it as a statute till this day. Remember that statement. Till this day regarding the land of Egypt. It was Paro's for the 5th. Here we see that Yosef acquired everything that these people had. They ate all the food that he already gave them, but they still needed more. Yosef says, we already made our killing. We already made all our money. We already have everything. I could turn you all into slaves. I own you. But I'm not going to do that. Only a tyrant does that. Only a pharaoh does that. Only a dictator does that. I'm a Jew. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you an opportunity to succeed. How? Give them jobs, give them opportunities. He gives them back property, their property, the property they're familiar with. And he says, you work the land, you do everything. And all we want from you is a 20% tax rate. That's it. You keep 80%. The property in reality is ours. We're giving it back to you. We're giving you opportunities to succeed. I can tell you, listen, you work the property, you're my slave, I'll give you $500 a week. I can tell you I can give you $500 a year, depending on where you live in the world. I can tell you, listen, you work the land, I'll give you 10% of the profits, 20% of the profits. Yosef says no. To make a society succeed, you have to make sure that people have the opportunity to succeed in a big way. If you want the economy to grow, it is not based on the tax rate. It's not based on the technology. It's not based on a lot of things. What it's based on is, do people want to be here? And why would they want to be here? Because they see that there's an opportunity to make it big. But if you tax them to such a point where you say, listen, you're going to do all the work and we're going to take half the profits, guess what? At all times, those people that succeed are going to look for ways to cheat the system, look for ways to pay less. This is what happens in America and all of these other countries. But the reason why Egypt grew tremendously, whereby Yosef became the most powerful person in the world, the leading economy in the world after this happened, is because he gave everybody an opportunity to succeed by giving them the work, by doing the kindness to them, even though they were not Jews. I'm giving you the opportunity to work. I'm giving you the opportunity to make a lot of money. You're going to make 80% of the money. Just be honest when it comes to paying back to the kingdom. You pay 20%. Now this sounds good, but this is where it gets better. The Torah Kedusha says to us, every sentence is a prophecy. Every sentence is a place where you can see HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. Every sentence you can decipher the difference between our holy Torah and all of the garbage of the world that was created by man, whether it be the New Testament, the Quran, and all the other nonsense that's out there in Buddhism and all types of idolatry. This is where it makes a difference. When our Torah says something, it's not a superficial statement, it's a guarantee. Here the Torah says that Yosef imposed this statute of a 20% tax rate regarding the land of Egypt until this day. Is it referring to 3,000 years ago? This day is today. So I went and checked. Yosef put a law that the Torah said it's permanent until this day. Can it be that if you go to Egypt right now, the tax rate is 20%? Well, Rabotai, I did the work for you. You go to the internet, you'll see tax rate in Egypt. Corporate tax rate, 22.5%. personal income tax rate, 25%. Now, some of you are impressed. Wow, it's 22%, 25%, it's close enough. Could have been 50% like America. Could have been all types of 90% like other countries in the world. But Egypt, it's close to what Torah says. But then the naysayers say, whatever, it's a coincidence. Show me 20%. Then I'll believe. You got it. You got it. 22% for corporations. The law here is in regards to people. According to people, it says 25%. 25% it says regards to people. But that's if you look at a simple tax rate. But in reality, tax rate doesn't work like that in Egypt and in most countries. There's a grid. The grid in Egypt is based on your bracket. If you make 0 to 15,000 Egyptian pounds, you'll make 0 tax rate. 15,000 to 30,000, 2.5, and so on and so forth. Now, for it to be a 20% tax rate in Egypt for individuals, you have to make between 60,000 and 200,000 Egyptian pounds, which is not very much money according to American standards. But nonetheless, 60,000 to 200,000, you're paying 20% tax rate. Then you go and you look at what actually happens in Egypt. You'll see that while the average salary for, as far as the country itself, because there's a lot of people there that make a lot of money, it's 227,000 of the Egyptian pounds is $21,000. Not much money. But that's the average. But in reality, the most typical salary is $109,000 per year. $7,000. Forget about whether it's a lot of money or little money according to your standards. What is the salary, the average, the most common, the most typical salary in Egypt? Meaning, what is the standard there? It's not the average. The average is based on a scale where some people make a lot. They make 2, 3, 4 million, and they increase the overall average for the guy that's making 50,000. So that's not a real number. The real number is the most typical salary. The most typical salary in Egypt today, December 2021, is 109,339 Egyptian pounds, which is 7,000 US dollars. Going back to the grid, Ishtabach Shimo La'ad. The grid said 60,000 to 200,000, 20% tax rate. Anybody need any more proofs that the Torah is divine and everything else is garbage? This is what prophecy looks like. When the Torah said there's gonna be a tax rate of 20% in Egypt until this day, countless leaders, presidents, pharaohs, and otherwise ruled Egypt and could have changed the tax rate 1.5 million times and can change the tax rate tomorrow. It doesn't make a difference. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself decreed the people in Egypt are gonna pay 20% tax rate. Yeah, but we have even 25%. No one's gonna make that much money. Why? Because I decreed that it's gonna be 20% tax rate. So no matter what happens in the entire world, Egypt decreed permanently to never have a person paying more than 20% taxes on the average. Why? The Torah decided. HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided. This, Rabotai, anyone who understands such a thing, this is unbelievable. This is no different than the Torah telling us that the Kotel, the Western Wall, will never go down. Somebody could try to blow it up tomorrow. It'll never happen. This is no different than all of the other prophecies, but B'ezrat Hashem, this is something you can see with your own eyes. You can go on the internet. You could do the analysis yourself. You can see how HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides This is what the tax rate will be. The tax rate, Rabotai, in Egypt is 20%. Why? Yosef Tzaddik decreed it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu fulfilled it. Why? That's how it works. A tzaddik decrees, HaKadosh Baruch Hu fulfills. Meaning an entire nation comprised of millions and millions of people, with everybody trying to make more money, everybody trying to do whatever it is that they do to become more successful, doesn't realize that the typical Egyptian will never have enough success. Never have enough success to go over this grid and pay more than 20% taxes. But if the average does change, where suddenly the economy in Egypt skyrockets, you'll see how HaKadosh Baruch Hu will manipulate the world and therefore lower the tax rate where everybody's just going to pay 20%, even if they make more money. Why? It was decreed in the Torah, and therefore it's true. That's what Torah reality looks like. That's what prophecy looks like. These are things you will never find in the Quran, in the New Testament, in anywhere in the world. A prophecy is not saying, listen, one day this guy's going to come back from the dead, and all of a sudden the sheep and the lion are going to be best friends, and he's going to ride both of them, and he has long hair. None of that stuff. Rabotai, prophecy is HaKadosh Baruch Hu decrees something that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and then he makes it happen. He does it time and time again in the Torah, and we see it with our own eyes today. An entire country, 3,500 years later, is still living with the decree of Yosef Tzaddik. 20% tax rate. No matter what happens, that's what we're going to be. The tax rate in Egypt. Forever. It will never be higher. The average person, the typical person, will never pay more than 20% taxes. This, Rabotai, is unbelievable. And B'siyat Dishmaya, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me this gift today to find this, and I think that this is no less a great proof than all of the other proofs we've mentioned scientifically. Quite frankly, I like this one better than others. Perhaps I'm a little biased because it's my chidush, rather than something that I read in other books. But nonetheless, this is verifiable. This is something you could look at yourself. You don't even need a calculator. You can just simply go. But B'ezrat Hashem will put these papers online just for anyone that wants us to see them the time, and you can see this yourself. HaKadosh Baruch Hu decrees what will be, and we have to simply just catch up to realize that there's nothing in the world that could override what Hashem said. With that being said, hopefully you guys enjoy the chidush as much as I did, perhaps at least close to it. Now we're going to take some questions, and B'ezrat Hashem we'll go from there. You see, I'm going to get a little closer to the screen so I can read it. And also get my drink. I already made a blessing for this before. Okay, first question. Hi, Rabbi. This is by Michael G.D. Or Mikhail G.D. Okay. Hi, Rabbi. Question. In efforts of guarding one's eyes, does it count if a person has the ability to completely blur out their eyesight, specifically driving through a highway that has immodest billboards? I'm not understanding what you mean by blurring out their eyesight. If you're talking about a person can look at the single spot or do something with their eyes where they can't see certain things, and they can do that intentionally and at will, then sure, as long as it does not put you at risk, life risk. If you're, let's say, for example, driving, you can't really do that most of the time because you need to pay attention to the road unless you're not driving. But if there is a billboard, you could just simply look at the at the mirror or the other side, and avoid looking at the things everywhere. You could just focus on looking straight. Generally speaking, there is a extraordinary reward for a person that protects their eyes. Not only do they not end up wasting seed intentionally and even unintentionally, but also they have a better quality of life, because their focus and their clarity is much more significant than someone who does not watch their eyes. A person who does not protect their eyes is not only not using the creativity that Hashem gave him, the tools that Hashem gave him in order to protect themselves, but also is going to live a lesser quality of life. He's never going to be happy with what he has. She's never going to be happy with what she has. If she looks everywhere, then she'll always want something that she doesn't have. She'll want a dress that she doesn't have. She'll want a car she doesn't have. She'll want a husband that she doesn't have. He'll want a wife that she doesn't have. Even if he has one, he'll want another one. And a person that looks and doesn't protect their eyes, not just for the issues of morality and immodesty, but just generally, a person that just looks freely at everything and everyone is going to have a terrible life. So if a person can use different tools that Hashem gave him, such as blurring your eyes or looking at something straight to the point where you have a narrowed focus, or different visualistic abilities that a person can have in order to protect their eyes, you should do it. I mean, there is a way that you could look straight at something but not see it. This is something that I learned years ago, where I could look straight at you, but I'm not paying attention to what you have. I'm looking straight through you. I'm looking at what's behind you, or perhaps even nothing. But you, for all intents and purposes, you're looking at me and you think that I'm looking at you. This is something that I learned to do years ago. And there are all types of different things that a person can do in order to manipulate their vision, in order to protect their eyes in some way. And yes, whatever gift you have, whatever talent you have, or you want to develop to do that, you should do it. The easiest thing that everybody can do is just simply look away. Look away, that's the best tool. That's the best tool in the world. And even if you have these other great tools, you're still going to need to use this simple tool of looking away. So that's important. And B'ezrat Hashem, if you do that, you'll be rewarded both in this world and the next. By the way, I just saw one of the questions gets erased because the thread keeps going. I think the question was by Michael Weaver. So Michael, if you had a long question over there, if you want to send it again, B'ezrat Hashem, I'll try to get to it. Okay, the next question that I have here on the screen is by Sam Davis. Can a non-Jew pray Tehillim, and does it do him any good? Is there any he can't pray? No, the Tehillim, which is Psalms, is what is part of the writings of the Tanakh, and is permissible and recommended for all of society, both the Jews and the non-Jews. The written part of the Torah, which is the entire Tanakh, is not only recommended but an obligatory for everybody to study, in order to know the will of Hashem, in order to know what is your purpose in the world, whether you're a Jew or Gentile. So when a person reads Tehillim, which are the prayers and cries of compiled by David HaMelech, but were also written by other tzaddikim before him, like Adam HaRishon, Moshe Rabbeinu, and other tzaddikim before him. But you have 150 psalms that are different prayers and praises and cries to Hashem. This can help anybody with a understanding of what the words are being said and does it. It's very, very good to do. Highly recommended for you to use it as your prayer. This is also the reason why I don't think that Noahides should make themselves like what's been made in recent years, like Noahides led by, some organizations that told them they should make themselves a prayer book, a siddur, in order to know what to pray every day. In reality, that's not really Da'at Torah. A person should pray with their own words to Hashem. Whether he's Jew or Gentile, he should pray with their own words, but the Jews have an organized siddur because the sages instituted it. For the non-Jews, you should not make a siddur, but rather you should pray with your own words. And if you want to read something that's already prepared, the best prayer in the world is the Tehillim, is Psalms. And don't think that I'm telling you to do anything different than the Jews, because the vast majority of the siddur that we have and the machzor that we have in high holidays is Psalms. That's the vast majority of what Jewish prayer is. So it's the best thing for a Jew and a non-Jew to read when they want to pray to Hashem is to read Tehillim. It is very, very good for the neshama, and surely is very helpful. Next is coming by question by Charlie. If we will be making babies after the resurrection of the dead, and there is no longer a Yetzirah, does that mean all those souls will be good and make Olam Haba, Gan Eden, after 1,000 years? Yes, so as far as what will be after Mashiach comes, the Rambam says we're only going to know for sure what will be after Mashiach comes once it happens. We have some basic things that we know that are going to happen, such as that the Mashiach is going to come, there's going to be a war of Gog and Magog, there is going to be a resurrection of the dead, and then eventually there's going to be the days of Mashiach, where there's the salvation in the world for the last approximately 1,000 years of this planet, and then there's Olam Haba. So there's this world, and then there's the world after it, and then there's even a world after that. But anyway, the point is that there is a debate of what's going to happen during that time of Mashiach, whether people are still going to eat, still go to the bathroom, still bring children to the world. There's a debate between the sages, and the Rambam says we're only going to know for sure once it happens. But on the argument that there will be children that come to the world, then simply those children will be new neshamot, perfect neshamot, not neshamot that are sinners that need to fix anything. They're simply going to be new neshamot, or it's going to be people that have already completed their tikkun, and they simply come to the world in order to serve Hashem without any yetzirah, without any evil inclination, and so on. There's nothing for them to fix. It's just simply serving Hashem during the time of Mashiach. That's what it will be. But anybody that's going to be alive and survive the war of Gog and Magog and is going to live in this world throughout those the last 1,000 years of the world, and eventually go to heaven. Jack is asking, Rabbi Reuven, I regret to inform you that I was unsuccessful at getting rid of the PS5 or the PlayStation that I bought my teenager, but I made a deal that he would listen to Shurim while playing video games. At least we came to a resolution. Oh, and no Manas or Meza. Only you, Rabbi, and a few others. As far as the PlayStation 5, part of being a parent, we talked about, I think, last week or the week before that, about how terrible game consoles are for children. And part of being a parent is to make the tough decisions, which means that you have to decide that you're going to do something for the benefit of the child, even if that means that he's going to give you a headache about it for a few hours or even a few days or even a few weeks. This is like if a father that knows that chas v'shalom, his child is deathly ill, and there was actually a real story like this, and they told the father that if because something happened, we have to keep this child awake for the next, I believe it was 2 days. And if he falls asleep, there's a very high chance he's going to die. So the father's new job was simply to do everything possible to keep this young kid awake. Now, in the beginning, it was fun. The kid likes to stay up late. But then after a while, the kid gets tired. He wants to go to sleep. And the father says, no, stay up for a little longer. So the kid stayed up for a little longer, and they were playing, and then the kid gets tired. He wants to go to sleep. And the father says, no, you got to stay up. And the kid starts crying. He says, Abba, I don't want to stay up anymore. I want to go to sleep. No, stay up. I'll give you a present. Okay, so this went on for a little while. Okay, but then the night gets longer and longer, and we're already into morning hours, and the kid's dead tired. He says, Abba, I want to go to sleep. And the father says, no, you have to stay up. And the kid starts hysterical crying, just let me go to sleep, I can't take it anymore. And the father says no. And then the kid starts yelling at the father and starts yelling, and I hate you. Why are you doing this to me? You're torturing me. I can't believe you. What kind of father are you? And the father, obviously his heart is being ripped apart to 50,000 pieces, but he knows that he has to do this to save this kid. And he continues to do this, and the kid starts screaming and yelling and hitting and doing everything possible. And the father's doing everything possible to keep this kid awake. Even if that means he has to pinch him a little bit, he has to move him a little bit, he has to do whatever he has to do. Because he knows he'd rather have a little bit of pain, a little bit of crying right now, versus not having a son. And this continues, Rabotai, for a couple of days. It may even be 3 days that this happened, but perhaps it was definitely a couple of days. And after that, the boy went to sleep. A lot of yelling, a lot of screaming, a lot of hitting, a lot of cursing, a lot of horrible things came out. But the kid survived, and they were able to save the kid. About 15 or 20 years later, that kid told the story in his wedding. And he says that to everybody in the wedding, he tells them the whole story. And he says, I never thanked my father. I never thanked my father for that day because it took me 15, 20 years to understand completely why he did it. Because it hurt. Not just that night, but after thinking about it, how did he keep me awake, all that stuff. It took him a long time to understand it. But eventually he understood it, because if he didn't do it, I wouldn't be here in doing the wedding. So that's one of the difficult things that a parent has to know. You have to make these tough decisions. David HaMelech did not make that decision, did not rebuke his son Avshalom, and never told him no. And the Torah says, as a rebuke on David HaMelech's chinuch of one of his sons, Avshalom, that's why his son eventually turned on him and tried to kill him. His son Avshalom tried to kill David HaMelech because David only showed him love, only did what he wants him to do, only let him play with the PlayStation as long as he listens to Shurim, while he plays with the PlayStation. Torah says it's not the way. It's not the way. You have to make the tough decision. If he cries, let him cry. It's better he cries than you cry that he's serving some idol or dating some goya or marrying some goya or doing all types of other things. It's better he cries today than you cry tomorrow. And that's the only advice I can tell you that is 100% truth. It's to tell you, oh, it's okay, he's going to listen to Shulim while he plays PlayStation. Quite frankly, I think it's not going to be effective, just because when you are in those games, and I remember as a kid, I used to play those games, you're in a different world. Somebody could literally die next to you. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference because you're in a different world. So it doesn't matter that he's listening to Shulim. Those Shulim are not entering his neshama because he's filling it with all types of superficial and actual impurities that are harming him much more than can help him. And the Torah that's good, he's not giving it the full attention that it deserves for it to impact him. So I again applaud you for trying to do it, but I insist that you're going to thank me one day. And even if you don't, even if you hate me, it doesn't really make much of a difference. But I know that your son will be appreciated in 15, 20 years from now, that you took away his console and made him cry for a week. He's going to appreciate it. And you're going to appreciate it a lot more. Because trust me when I tell you, I deal with a lot of kids. And the kids that have the most difficult time paying attention to a Shiur Torah are the kids that come from a place where they play video games. I had a kid that was able to quote me on different things that I said in shurim. He used to come to my shurim. He used to be able to quote me. He used to do all types of things. But eventually that kid turned upside down and then simply went back to his old ways. I mean, I believe he still keeps Shabbat, still keeps some basics, but he never grew past a certain point because he never abandoned the video games. So yes, he was able to use certain talents and abilities that Hashem gave him to record certain things, to say certain things, but he was never able to overcome some of his physical desires, some of his spiritual limitations, and really get to a point of actually opening a sefer and reading it. He just wasn't able to do it. The most he can do is watch a shiur Torah. And the reality is, as much as I love to have more and more people watch my shiur Torah by itself is not enough to get a person to its full potential. You need shiur Torah and the books. Shiur Torah and the books. Especially people that got fired up from the shiur Torah and did tshuva or converted or both as a result of the shiur Torah. They have to continue listening to that same source permanently. As long as that source is still good, it's still valid, it's still kosher, they have to continue staying close to whatever tzaddik got them to do tshuva, got them to the truth. But for them to grow, they also have to add books. They have to add books. People that play video games have a nearly impossible time reading books and really studying Torah for an extensive period of time, 3, 4, 5 hours, 6 hours. It's almost impossible for them. The same thing with people that watch television and movies and so on. It's almost impossible for them to sit there and read a book for 2, 3, 4 hours. Like some people are hearing me say these times, like, what are you, crazy? Who has that kind of time? If you learn Torah, 4 hours is nothing. If you learn real Torah, 4 hours is nothing. But in reality, people that don't study Torah, to them it sounds like impossible. For them, oh yeah, I studied an hour. Yeah, isn't that good? Yes, it's good if for a starter. For a starter to learn for an hour is good. But if you're already in it for a couple of years, it's not enough. You have to do more. How much more? As much as possible. 2, 4, 6, 8. How much do we appreciate? You have to do more. And that's how you grow. If a person that's only going to watch Shiur Torah is going to limit the amount of growth that they could have. Both knowledge-wise and spiritually. And the people that play video games or watch television are already themselves giving themselves a disability, a spiritual disability, because what the videos do to a person is they train the mind for instant gratification. They want instant gratification immediately when that person sees a movie. He sees how the editors cut everything so quickly, where there's a constant stimulation to your mind of something happening, whether it's visually or audio or both. There's constantly something happening to keep you glued to that screen. Even more so with games. There's constantly something happening, constantly something that you have to do. So it trains the mind to have a constant, instant gratification. So when it comes to actually solving real life problems, whether it's marriage problems or child problems or business problems or all types of serious problems, needless to say, Torah problems, Torah complications that require extensive, time-consuming, and required thinking that could take hours, if not days, they simply can't handle it. They can't handle it. They can't hold a thought for that long. They're used to arriving at a conclusion instantly. There's a stimuli, there is a solution. Stimuli, there is some type of action happening as a result of it. Stimuli, effect. Stimuli, conclusion. Stimuli, something happening all the time. So a person that is giving this poison to their kid is simply giving their kid a handicap when it comes to their life and their ability to cope with real life problems. And it's people that play video games, some people that play video games are brilliant people. They're able to solve real world problems. They could build rockets. They could do a lot of things. But you're never going to see someone that's addicted to video games, which is the vast majority of children today, do anything useful in the world. Other than that, you're never going to see them in a successful marriage. You're never going to see them actually be a good husband, wife, or father, because all of those things that that take time, attention, and real investment require something that they simply have discarded because of the video games and the screens and so on. And this is also part of the reason why I myself, at times would have a difficult time to study certain subjects of the Torah, because even though I was never an addict to video games, I was never an addict to television, still I spent enough time in front of a screen that that I was used to a certain amount of instant gratification. Baruch Hashem, I also read a lot of books. As a secular person, I read an extraordinary amount of books, so that helped me to a certain extent. But again, there still had to be an adjustment where I was used to arriving at a conclusion after a certain amount of time. But then when you start learning halacha, it literally can take you 5 years to understand a certain problem. It can take you 5 minutes. The weekly parasha, I've been studying every single year for, the last 12 years or so. But only this week did I see the new insight that I told you about today. So sometimes it's a culmination of events that and studying that will get you to a point. But if you cannot retain that consistent mind frame, you're never going to get to that conclusion. So I'm telling you again, and I appreciate the question a lot, and I appreciate your effort. I'm telling you again, it's worth it for you and your dear wife to push further, suck it up, accept the crying, and simply take that PlayStation away and throw it in the garbage, shatter it to a million pieces, and tell your son, I promise you, you'll thank me for it. Try to pacify him in some way if you want. Talk to him. Maybe, take him to a zoo or something. Do something that he likes to do that's not video games. And I promise you, this will be a present that you're giving yourself, as well as him, because he's still young enough where he hasn't lost himself. He hasn't lost himself in his attention span to the digital world. And there's been studies that I've read about how parents that give their children iPads and iPhones at a young age are actually ruining the development of their children. They're ruining the development of their children, where you see that the child that is given an iPad or iPhone at an early age, as an infant, he can instantly figure out how to play with it. So it makes the parents think, oh, look, my kid is really smart. I only figure out how to play with an iPad when I was 30 or 40 years old. This kid is, a year old and he already knows how to play with an iPad. So it makes the parents believe that the kid is really smart. In reality, they just gave that kid a mental time bomb that is going to limit his learning to the extent where that kid, more times than not, is going to develop certain necessary skills like speaking later on in life and other types of skills. Why? Because, again, it's very, very addictive and it's problematic. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, when my daughter, my first kid, God bless her, Kadosh Baruch Hu, give her refuah shlema, when she was born, we gave our kid an iPad. And we were fascinated by it. Wow, she loved the thing. She did all types of things. I couldn't believe a little kid does it. But then when we wanted to take it away, we started noticing that it was simply impossible. And she was literally on the thing, for like hours. And Baruch Hashem, my wife and I, I've been around the block for long enough to know when something is a problem. And immediately we realized, okay, this is poison. There's no reason in the world that anybody, needless to say, an infant, should be addicted to anything digital at such an age. Like, okay, watching it is one thing, if it's kosher, if it's this, if it's that. But to have such an addiction at such an age, no, this cannot be good. And we went through the pain. We went through the pain of taking that thing, and yes, she cried and she complained, and I think it was like 3 weeks or something like that of dealing with it. But Baruch Hashem, eventually that test was over, and until this day, Baruch Hashem, none of my children play with iPads and iPhones and anything. Yes, we show them different digital things that my wife chooses. That we already know what it is. There is a Shiur Torah. There is a, some type of Torah story, Sipurei Tzadikim, all types of things that we know for sure are kosher, that we choose for them, we pick for them, and they'll watch it for a certain part of the day. Yes, as part of their education, they'll learn, Aleph Bet, or they'll learn the ABCs or math, different things, both from books as well as digital. I'm not against digital. But to give a kid full control of the digital world at such a young age, Needless to say, video games, you're simply destroying that kid. And I'm telling you from experience with thousands of kids, this is you're going to regret it if you don't do this. And I know it's painful. I went through it to a certain extent myself with my kid, and Baruch Hashem, my other kids never dealt with it, and Baruch Hashem will never deal with it. But yes, I'm not against screens. I know, I'm very well aware that screens are part of the world today. There is a digital media. There is a lot of good stuff, along with the bad stuff. I'm not anti-iPads and iPhones and digital media, but everything has to be given with a lot of thought, with a lot of preparation, and giving children control is simply a mistake that is going to be very difficult to fix. Very difficult to fix, and I'm telling you this because I have the people that have listened to me, and then the people that haven't listened to me, and then the people that just simply didn't even know, and I see the results, where their kids are, and how much more they have to go through before they finally get the gist of things, and when they get the point, and when they develop. And really the most valuable asset that a person has is their mind. And you don't want that mind to be ruined. And when you think about it, there is nothing beneficial. There's nothing beneficial about playing video games that is worth that risk. Some people will say, yes, there's certain benefits scientifically where it gives a person quicker analytical skills according to some studies, which I've also read. Yes, even if that is true, that it gives a person quicker analytical abilities, according to some studies, even if that's true, it's still not worth the damage that it causes in other places, the video games. And one of the greatest things or the worst things that the video games cause is they make a person numb, and more numb to society, to real life. Make people numb to real life, numb to their feelings, and they make certain people live with a delusional mindset of thinking that they really are this important person on some, I don't know, army team or something, shooting people. They believe that they're really their work on I don't know, video games that build houses or whatever it is. All these games, they actually believe it's like important for the world. And especially the people that watch other people play video games on like YouTube. I think that already speaks for itself, that it's a very serious and deadly disease. That people are actually gone to the point where they watch other people, play video games. It shows how sick people are. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But nonetheless, people are doing it. Millions of people are doing it. And then, people are surprised. Why is this guy still alone at 35 years old, still living with his mother? Why is this girl not interested in getting married ever? Why is this person, not fixing anything in his life? Why is this person not wanting to change? And so on and so forth. And you see that the amount of losers that you have in society today is a greater percentage of the world than ever before. In the past generations, children would work. I know when I was a kid, I started working at 10 years old. That's not standard, today, obviously. But, and I don't necessarily recommend for people to get their kids to start working at 10 years old if they have an option not to. But nonetheless, today you have people getting their first job at 25, 30, 35 years old. And I'm not talking about people that go to yeshiva and they're learning and they're scholars. No. I'm talking about people that are simply completely secular. Okay? They're not studying anything, but they decide that they're going to do everything possible except work a normal job until they're 30 years old. They don't even start their life until 35 years old. That is a disaster. When you have 30-year-olds still living with their parents, that is a disaster. It's a disaster to society, and it's a real sad scenario. Perhaps it explains why the Japanese do not have any more kids, and their society is on the verge of extinction, because the average age in Japan is the oldest among all of the nations of the world, to the point where if they don't change, they will not be a Japan within the next few generations, because they don't have any kids. But nonetheless, I understand why they don't have any kids, because the kids today, if you're going to have one of these loser kids that's going to, you bring him to the world and you're going to have to support him until he's 40 years old, perhaps it's better not to have a kid if that's going to be the kind of kid that you're going to have. So again, it's important for a person to know, if you're going to raise kids, you're going to have to make tough decisions. You have to make tough decisions, but that's because you're a parent and you know the outcomes of things more than the kid will. And you have to do it for him as well as for yourself. And there's no doubt in my mind that you'll succeed as a result. And the kid will too. Michael, in Gemara Masechet Brachot, page 27b, the sages considered replacing Rabban Gamliel with Rabbi Akiva, but decided not to, saying perhaps due to Rabban Gamliel's resentment, he would be divinely punished as he lacks the merits of his ancestors to protect him. If the convert is a Ben Avraham, then what more merit could anyone have than Avraham, who was an acquisition of Hashem? Okay, so I'm not following what's the question really. I mean, as far as if you're comparing a convert to the whole Rabbi Akiva story, as far as because Rabbi Akiva came from converts, yes, I mean, the thing is you have to understand is that although Rabbi Akiva was a big tzaddik, although Rabbi Akiva came from converts, because everything that the sages did, they did for the sake of Hashem, they did for the sake of glorifying the Torah, they were not looking for fights, they were not looking for altercations, they were simply looking to magnify the Torah. To magnify the Torah, to do what's the best for the Torah. But what's the best for the Torah also is best for its learners. So Rabbi Akiva has students, Rabban Gamliel has students. Those students will have to deal with those consequences. And while Rabban Gamliel perhaps wasn't viewed as great as Rabbi Akiva, the fact that he was already at that position, he was also the descendant of David HaMelech, which means that he was fit to be Mashiach. And Rabbi Akiva was not fit to be Mashiach, even though he got to the highest level of Kedusha, the 50th level, still he was not fit to be Mashiach. That was one thing that Rabban Gamliel did have over. And even more so, the fact that he was already in that position meant that there is going to be more damage to him and his students than there's going to be gain for Rabbi Akiva and his students. Because whether Rabbi Akiva becomes the Nasi or not, in reality, not much is going to change. His students will stay his students, whether he's Nasi or not. But on the other hand, if Rabban Gamliel is Nasi or not, will make a difference. Why? Because people already view him as a certain person, already has a certain job, a certain role in the world. Whereas if you remove him from it, some people will have comments to say, oh, you know what, maybe he's not that great. Maybe I'm going to learn from somebody else. Maybe I'm going to learn on my own. And the sins that will come out of that as a result of Lashon Hara, Rechilut, Bitul Torah, and so on, was too much of a risk. Was too much of a risk for the sages to think it's worth it. Again, that's what they said, that Rabban Gamliel surely would not be happy with the fact that he would be removed, but that could also lead to a divine punishment. He wasn't a bad person. He wasn't a rasha, chas v'shalom. So there's no reason for them to make such a change when the upside wasn't really all great, because the Rabbi Akiva's teachings, you're going to get one way or the other. Halacha is like Rabbi Akiva. So it's one way or the other, everything is good. So really there was just downside as a result of doing it, and that's why they didn't make that decision. It's not because only because Rabbi Akiva was a convert, but rather because of who Rabban Gamliel was too, as well as what the downside would be in one way or the other. But either way, in regards to comparing a convert to a natural-born Jew, it all depends on what convert it is. Meaning, if you're comparing a convert that's a Talmid Chacham, that's a scholar, then sure, this convert is as extraordinary as it gets. But if you're talking about a convert that's not really keeping Torah and mitzvot, he doesn't have
the benefits and the blessings and the protection that that the Torah talks about. That protection, those blessings are not just for anybody that converts, but then becomes a mechalel Shabbat. That they lose those blessings. So that's also important to know. It's not by default, just like it's not by default for every Jew that's born Jewish or Jew in general to have a share on the world to come. No, you have to, live as a Jew, not just born as a Jew. You have to die as a Jew, live as a Jew. Yeah, so it's there's a important not to summarize big topics in such a fashion that we think that you can just do this one thing and that's it. It doesn't work that way. There's the bigger the issue, the more pieces are involved. But either way, they were both great. They both contributed to the world tremendously, and to no end. Our oral Torah that we have today is thanks to Rabbi Akiva. Because his students, the 24,000 students that he had, we don't really have their Torah. They all died, and the Torah that we have today is from his 5 students. That after the 24,000 students died, he restarted everything from scratch, which is mind-blowing of its own. And that's the Torah that we have in the world today. Literally millions of books are coming from Rabbi Akiva and his handful of students. Robert is asking, for a few years I've been giving out CDs for Kiruv without having to talk. I've noticed that because I have a baseball hat, since I haven't completed my conversion, some Jewish people are reluctant to accept the CDs. I feel that they might think it's missionary stuff, and rightly so, because the wicked missionaries are attacking Jews. What can I do to improve these short interactions? Simply, you could just say, this is Torah from Rabbi, whoever. If it's, let's say, for example, if it's me, this is Rabbi Yaron Reuven. He's an Orthodox rabbi, and simply keep it simple. Don't go into whole entire discussions. I'm in the process of conversion, but I haven't converted yet. Because the second that people hear that you are in the process of conversion, your credibility is in the garbage, according to them. Because they feel, wait, how can you tell me to learn Torah if you're not even a Jew? According to people that are not religious, a person that's not a Jew is not qualified to help you, needless to say, teach you. Secondly, even if you already completed your conversion, and you told somebody, listen, I just completed my conversion, here's some Torah, many people are very superficial, and they won't accept that advice. So I'd say you have to keep it short and to a point, without really discussing your own personal status, just simply by saying, this is Rabbi such and such, this is, let's say, Rabbi Yaron Reuven, he's an Orthodox rabbi, it's a very inspiring story. Here you go, and just move on. Short, simple, and move on. I think you'll have much more success. Martina is asking, my friend's daughter converted to Judaism, but she and her husband are considered Noahide. Okay, they converted to Judaism, but they're considered Noahide. They're thinking about purchasing a home in a Jewish community in case their daughter decides to come visit from Israel with her children. Would they be able to do things like putting a mezuzah on their doors? Thank you. Now, to say that they're, my friend's daughter converted to Judaism. Okay, I misunderstood. I thought that your friends converted to Judaism. I misread. I thought your friends converted to Judaism, but they're considered Noahide. Okay. So my friend's daughter converted to Judaism, but she and her husband, meaning your friend, are Noahides, and they were thinking about buying a home in a Jewish community. Okay, in case their daughter decides to come. Would they be able to put a mezuzah? Okay, got it. All right. So putting on a mezuzah is not something that a non-Jew should do, even if it's a non-Jew that's in the process of converting. They should not put a mezuzah up until they complete their conversion, and if they're not converting, they should not put a mezuzah up. And the reason why is because it could create confusion, and people will think that that person is a Jew, which could lead to a lot of problems, such as desecration of Hashem's name. If, let's say, they see you drive on Shabbat and you're not Jewish, so you're perfectly fine for you to drive on Shabbat if you're not Jewish. But they think that you're driving on Shabbat as a Jew. Or perhaps they see you eating on, pizza on, non-kosher, or pizza on Pesach, all types of things. So having a mezuzah is a big deal. And it's highly, highly advisable for non-Jews not to have a mezuzah on their doors. In fact, Halacha, Shulchan Aruch, forbids Jews from selling a mezuzah to a non-Jew. Forbids Jews from selling a mezuzah to a non-Jew. It's forbidden for a Jew to sell a mezuzah to a non-Jew. And I've had a couple of times, more than a couple of times, where different wonderful people that watch my shiurim that are not Jewish, sometimes they're in the process of conversion, sometimes they're just simply going to become the best Noahides in the world. And they decide to do something good, and they figured, let me add blessing. The rabbi spoke about a mezuzah being a good thing, so they figured, I'll buy a mezuzah. And they sent an order for, a couple of $1,000s worth of mezuzahs. And, I don't know who everybody is. So I ask everybody questions. You Sephardi, or you Ashkenazi, or you this, or you that, to make sure you're giving everybody the right thing. Long story short, it has happened also with tefillin. Multiple times I had to cancel the orders and refund people money because they were not Jewish. And in one case, somebody got offended. The rest of the cases, when I explained it to them that I'm simply forbidden from selling them mezuzah, people understood it, and in some cases actually told us, listen, okay, fine, I was just looking to do something good, so just use that money as a donation for the organization to do kiruv. I keep learning your shiurim. Thank you very much for telling me the truth. And people appreciate the truth. So again, if you are a Noahide because you're looking to do the will of Hashem, you will not buy a mezuzah, because we're forbidden from selling it to you. And if you buy a mezuzah from a non-kosher place or some internet website that you don't even know who wrote it, then there's really no point in buying it in the first place. Just print it off your computer. It's useless. The whole point of a mezuzah is if it comes from a holy source to a person that's looking to follow what it says. But if you're not allowed to sell it as a Jew, you're not allowed to sell the mezuzah to a Noahide, and the Noahide should not have a mezuzah on their door. They're allowed to own it, but they're not to put it on their door. But that's a very big test for certain people. And I've seen way too many Noahides that were good turn into bad Noahides as a result of them becoming too Jewish without actually becoming Jewish, where they adopted so many of the Jewish laws that they simply have lost the desire to convert, because they simply live as a Jew already, and they keep whatever they want. They keep Chanukah. You see them lighting the menorah on Chanukah. They fast on Yom Kippur. They eat matzah on Pesach. And you see them living like a Jew, but they live in Arkansas somewhere, or in Montana, or in Zimbabwe, or wherever they live in the world. There's no Jew to be seen except themselves, and they're living like a Jew. But in reality, they're not Jewish, and they no longer have the desire to be Jewish because they figure they're already doing everything. And unfortunately, this is when a Noahide becomes a bad Noahide, because they're inventing a new religion, they're stealing mitzvot from the Jews, and it's not a good thing. Unfortunately, I've had encounters with a few of them. Some of them used to be my students and have turned against me because they thought that I was being mean. I'm not mean to anybody. I tell people the truth in order to help people. If you find that mean, then maybe you should seek mental help. But the key is to understand that it's if you're going to do things that are written in the Torah because God said it, then do it the way God said it, and not the way you decided. And when I say God said it, that also means how the sages of Judaism have interpreted it, not have you interpreted it, or he interpreted it, or they interpreted it, or even I interpreted it. It's how the sages have interpreted it. And that's what happens a lot of times when people say, no, I'm just listening to the Torah, not the rabbis. There is no such thing. If you're listening to the Torah, that means you have to listen to the rabbis. The Torah is the written Torah and the oral Torah. And people that pick and choose what to listen to, what not to listen to, end up becoming bad Noahides and end up creating their own religions, and it becomes a very, very problematic person. And many times they actually even become anti-Semitic, which is the strangest thing in the world. But nonetheless, I've seen it quite a few times. These types of people become the biggest haters of the Jews. All they have to say is bad thing about Jews, and they end up, looking and acting like Jews. And I've even had cases where people simply decided to call themselves Jews. They never converted. They don't even know what the basics of halachot are, but they decided that they are, not only they are Jews, but they even call themselves rabbi. They call themselves Jews. Some of them even make YouTube videos pretending to be Jews, starting organizations as Jews. There is a lot of corruption out there. And it's sad. It's sad because why? Because these people end up becoming a really big problem for those people that really genuinely want to convert. Because it's people like that bring, first of all, they bring bad decrees to the world. Second of all, they make Judaism look terrible. Third of all, they make the Jews look terrible. And last but not least, they make the Jews worried about converts because they see people like Asher Meza and his students that, quite frankly, are as much Jewish as the Agori population that eats people in India. They don't do anything that's Jewish other than simply mention certain things they don't like about the Torah. They don't really do anything that's Jewish, but nonetheless, they consider themselves Jewish. People like that, it's better off that they were never born in the first place. So again, if a person wants to listen to the Torah, they have to understand there's a place in the world for Jews, there's a place in the world for righteous Noahides, and there's even a place in the world for wicked people. A person should decide which one they want to be and follow what needs to happen in order to be that. If a person's a Noahide, they should act like a Noahide. They should serve the Torah, serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and follow his Torah according to how the Jewish age is interpreted. Because quite frankly, without the oral Torah, there is no point in the world for the Noahide. There's no place in the world that the Noahide would learn what to do, how to do it, or even that there is even a status of being a Noahide, or a significance of being a Noahide. So you can't say, I follow the Torah while going against the sages. It doesn't make any sense. It's a contradiction. It's an oxymoron. So again, I'm not saying your friends are doing any of that. I'm simply telling you things that are on my mind that have something to do with your question. So with your friends, as far as their daughter that converted to Judaism, if she is married, obviously she would come visit them with her husband. That's no problem. But when it comes to their food, she has to know that she's still Jewish. So even though her parents are her biological parents, she can't eat their food. She would have to be the one that cooks, and she has to bring utensils, or they have to order kosher food, and she has to take those things into consideration. Secondly, when it comes to her parents, those parents should not move into a Jewish community and adopt to the Jewish laws of, let's say, putting a mezuzah up and thereby looking like they're Jewish to some people, because it create confusion. There's no shame in being a righteous Noahide. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no reason for a righteous Noahide to look Jewish. They should look like a righteous Noahide. Still modest, still ethical, still a good person, simply not Jewish. There are plenty of good Noahides in the world. I don't understand why Noahides are embarrassed of them being a Noahide and they try to pretend like they're being Jews. It doesn't make any sense to me. If you're Jewish, then be Jewish. If you're not Jewish, then don't be Jewish. Be a Noahide. And being a Noahide, it's a righteous Noahide, is an extraordinary thing. It's a fantastic thing. You'll have a share of the world to come. Job, the prophet Job, was a Noahide. There's a book in the Tanakh that's written about a righteous Noahide. It's not the only one. There are other righteous Noahides that I mentioned. The point is that there's no reason for a person that's not Jewish to look Jewish. It just doesn't make any sense. It's not a plus. If anything, it looks like deceiving. It looks deceptive. So a person that is a Noahide should not put on tzitzit, should not wear a yarmulke, should not look like they're a Jew. They should look like a normal Noahide that looks like a respectable person and represent the Torah according to where they are. If they are in a process of conversion, that's a different story. Then they have to start acclimating and looking more like a Jew. But if they're not converting, they're not looking to convert, they should look like a Noahide, not like a Jew. They shouldn't think that it's a negative thing to be a Noahide. It's a fantastic thing to be a Noahide if you're a righteous Noahide. Just like it's a fantastic thing to be a Jew if you're a righteous Jew. But if you're a wicked Jew, it's the worst thing in the world to be. There's literally nothing worse in the world than a wicked Jew. Nothing worse in the world. Because even their punishment is worse punishment than the wicked non-Jew. So a person should know that they shouldn't be ashamed of their own skin, of their own nationality, of their own status. They should be proud of it as long as they're following the Torah. And I think that it's important for them to have good guidance of where to go and what to go, and not necessarily try to fit in anywhere. Just simply do the best that you can according to what the Torah says and its sages, and hopefully they have some type of rabbi that they're learning from and that they're following, that's giving them guidance and is going to tell them the truth and not just pacify them perhaps because of money or otherwise. Because unfortunately I've seen that too, where people tell people whatever they want to hear just because they figure, listen, if I give him this and that, he'll give me money and then I could do good things with it. That's unfortunately what led to a lot of Orthodox Jews getting millions of dollars from the Christian church, which is now showing its fruits of the amount of missionizing that's happening inside Jewish communities. So nothing good comes out of lies. Nothing good comes out of being fake. Nothing good comes out of it. And that's why the Torah says, midvar sheker tirchak. From a thing of lies, stay away from. Not only don't lie, but stay away from anything that looks deceptive. Stay away from anything that looks deceptive. And that's why each time, for example, when I learn my Rav, there are certain things that it mentions in books, and we review them each time. And there are certain things that really, you don't want to say them. Like it says it in the book, A, B, C, D. Okay? Whatever it says. You read some Torah, one of the sages, and you look at everything, A, B, C, D, this looks amazing. But then you have E, and it's really terrible. Like, you don't want to say it for whatever reason or another. It's just one of those things where you hope you could just omit it. And technically, you can if you want to, but we always choose not to omit anything. To simply tell the whole truth completely. So everybody knows this is what it is. Deal with it. Handle it. Manage with it. Think about it. Toil over it. And don't think that, oh, he didn't give us the whole picture and therefore I found something else and No. We're going to give you the whole picture on a silver platter, and that's what you're going to do. That's what you're going to have. And I think that when a person is real with themselves and honest completely and not being deceptive or trying to look like something that they're not, they'll live a much more fulfilling and righteous life. And although the act that your friends are looking to do seems like a very nice act that many other people also want to do, it's only something that will lead to more trouble than it's worth, and unfortunately sometimes that trouble can make them lose their eternity, and I've seen that happen also, unfortunately. Okay, another couple of questions. Getting a little late, but since my shiur lasted for so long, let me get another drink. Dennis is asking, or Denise, Dennis, I think it's Dennis. Sorry, I don't know. Can you share some tips for a person to be able to get the most out of experiences that are not pleasant to go through, yet they are mercy from Hashem saving us? To be able to figure out why something happened and what the mistake was, that it was needed for one to go through, and when the mind is not ideally clear. So even if a person has an idea of what and of the what and the why, it's difficult to trust. Okay, so difficulty is something that exists in everybody's life. There's no doubt about it. Everybody has difficulty, both the young, the old, the male, the female, the righteous, the wicked. Everybody has difficulty. Now, a person needs to learn a lot about what is emunah, what is bitachon. We have an entire series of lectures. About emunah and bitachon that's called bitachon be'Hashem. We also have a bunch of lectures about it as part of our Jewish Ashkafa series. I would say at least 20 lectures over there speak about it. And it's a very, very extensive issue that constantly requires strengthening. Meaning, it's not something you learn about one time and you're finished. It's something that you constantly have to repeat, constantly have to remind yourself in order to develop a spiritual imagination. Spiritual imagination meaning that you have to use your imagination not just for business purposes and for all types of other things, but use your imagination in order to understand that whatever is happening in your life is for the best. So I give you a couple of real life examples that I'll think about as I'm talking. Bezat Hashem. So for example, there's a righteous person that I know that when they were going on a shidduch to find a wife, they made a promise to themselves that whatever Hashem sends them, they're going to accept. Meaning they're not going to say no to anybody. Whoever Hashem sends them, they're going to say yes. And not only yes to go on a date with them, but to marry them. This is a level of emunah that's very, very extensive, very high level. And nonetheless, this is what happened. And to see something like this in real life is one of the great pleasures of my life that I've seen with my own eyes. So anyway, he went on a, I don't know, I think it was one date with somebody or a few dates with somebody, and then the person didn't want to continue. Then he went with another person. And that second person, they went on several dates. Everything went great. And they wanted to get married. And they started talking about marriage, started planning everything. The families met. Everything looked fantastic. There was attraction. There was similar ideology. Everything was fine. You know, there wasn't anything really significant missing. And he thought that within the next, I don't know, few weeks or so, he was going to be married. And suddenly he gets a call that it's off. And no discussion. No discussion, no explanation. The whole thing is off. And of course, he was really hurt by it at that time. But understood that everything is from Hashem. Everything is from Hashem. There's no doubt in his mind. And but he just wanted to understand why this was good. And for a while, for years, he went through the thought process of why this happened. I mean, if she said, okay, I'm not attracted, or the money, or something that I could hold on to and rationalize it and understand it, fine. But simply everything went from being great to suddenly everything is off. Like, why would God do such a thing? Why should I go through the turmoil, the emotional turmoil of thinking I found somebody to build a home with, and now all of a sudden it's off with no explanation. I didn't even do anything bad. There was no arguing. There was no issues. Simply, one day we're getting married, and a few weeks later, it's off. No explanation, no conversation, no friendship, no cordial, nothing. Strange. Why would God do such a thing? Well, he has serious emunah. He continued, of course. He asked this question for years, but he didn't wait for years to get married. He went on the next date, and Baruch Hashem, I believe it was the next woman that he met, that he ended up getting married to. And Baruch Hashem today, they have a extraordinary house full of Torah, Kedusha, children, all the good things in the world. But still, always a person that serves Hashem completely and learns his Torah is constantly investigating themselves and why there were certain things that happened in their life. And he always asked himself why this happened. Like, what was the benefit of it? Fine, okay. He ended up meeting his wife, and this was a stepping stone that surely meant that his wife was the best one. But still, that doesn't explain why would God, break this whole thing abruptly. And then later on, years after, I think after they already had maybe 3 or 4 kids, he ran into a person that he knew from yeshiva, and they started talking and so on and so forth. And this person from yeshiva said, "Oh, did you hear what happened to such and such?" He says, no, I don't know what happened to such and such. He goes, yo, he's the one that married such and such person. And he realized he's saying, who's he married this person? He married that girl that he was supposed to marry. Oh, yeah, no, I didn't hear. Well, what happened? He goes, no, listen, they got married within a year of marriage. She got really sick and has been bedridden and in comas and all types of horrible treatment ever since, and now I believe that the girl was like on either dying or dead. No children, no nothing, just simply a tragedy from the minute that they get married. And then he says he didn't know, but now he knows. Meaning he didn't know that this whole thing happened, but now he knows why Kadosh Baruch Hu did what he did. He simply was protecting him. Simply was protecting him from a life of tragedy. Because Baruch Hashem, he deserves something else. So a person that understands that whatever Hashem does is always the best, it doesn't mean that you'll like it right away. It doesn't mean that you'll think it's the best right away, unless you understand that Hashem is your father, and therefore he's not going to give you anything that's against your interest. When you truly understand your interest. The problem is that we do not really know what our interest is. We know what our desires are. So we simply determine what our interest is based on our desires. And we look at the picture of the world, like I explained it in last night's lecture, we looked at the picture of the world as if somebody is looking at a picture right in front of his face. So yes, you can make up somewhat what's in that picture, but in reality you're too close to the picture to really decipher the full picture. As you get more and more distant from that picture, you start understanding more of what's actually in front of you. Hashem, on the other hand, he looks at the entire scope of the picture, not just what's on that picture completely, from a complete distance, but every single thing that will ever have something to do with that picture. And he doesn't make a decision without determining all of the factors. Meaning that, as the Gemara in Masechet Chulin says, that there's not a finger that's ever pricked by a needle without there being judgment in heaven that this is the best thing to do. What does that mean? It means that before HaKadosh Baruch Hu causes any type of damage to a person's life, he has to determine everything that's going to affect it and be affected by it. So therefore, if, let's say, for example, there is a person that is decreed that this person is going to die, chas v'shalom, okay? Horrible thing. Now, before that decree, there's a judgment that he's going to, but before that's decreed and it's official, Hashem has to evaluate everything, because the Satan comes with the case, prosecution. This person did such and such. He deserves death penalty. He comes with his case. He's the prosecutor. And he has a valid case. The person does deserve death penalty. He did something that deserves a death penalty according to the law. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't work only according to the law in plain sight. He looks according to the law that affects everybody. And now he looks, okay, this person deserves to die. Let's see who's going to be affected by it. He sees, the person's spouse is going to be affected by it. Do they deserve to have the suffering of having somebody die? Let's see. He looks at their entire account. Oh yeah, over here they made a similar sin, and they deserve to die themselves. Needless to say, to have somebody die, so they deserve it. Okay, moves on to the next chapter. The parents. Oh, do the parents deserve such a horrible punishment, which is one of the worst punishments, or the worst punishment you can get in your life, in your lifetime, is to have a parent see their own child die, and this is a horrible thing. And Hashem evaluates, do the parents deserve it? Did they do something that warrants such a suffering? If it's determined, yes, chas v'shalom, then he goes to the next chapter. He goes to the kids, and then he goes to the other people, and he goes to, let's say, people that he works for, people that work for him, people that he knows, and so on and so forth. And he looks at everybody and has to determine the same conclusion for everybody. And what ends up happening is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees, wait a minute, this person, everybody in his immediate circle deserves it. But there is somebody that he knows from 20 years ago that was in the same class as him. And that person has grown in Torah and mitzvot exponentially. That person is a tzaddik. That person is an amazing person that does not deserve anything bad. And when that person finds out, even though he hasn't heard from him in 20 years, surely if something like this happened, the word will get around, and that person will hear that his old friend from 20 years ago just died, and he will have pain as a result of it, starting to think, oh, maybe I should have talked to him, I should have reached out, and he does not deserve that pain. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu cancels the decree of the Satan. Cancels the decree of the Satan. Why? Not because the guy doesn't deserve it, but because some tzaddik that he knows from 20 years ago doesn't deserve that pain. So when a person understands the amount of judgment that an evaluation that goes into every single decision, surely it becomes much easier to understand why everything that Hashem does is 100% perfect, the best, the greatest. And in fact, if we knew the truth from Hashem's perspective, we would have done much worse to ourselves. We would have done much worse to ourselves. And that's why actually the Chachamim in the Zohar and other places say that when a person goes up to Shemayim and is shown all of their sins, all of their actions that were against Hashem in this world, they ask and plead with Hashem to throw them into Gehenna. They ask to be thrown into Gehenna because of the embarrassment that they have, because they now see the full picture. They see the full picture. So when a person understands that if they're going to a job and they get, instead of arriving at that job and getting that $1 million contract, instead they get a flat tire, that's not because God hates you. It could be because God doesn't want you to make money, but it could also be because God does not want you to make that particular money. Why? Because that person that you were about to sign a $1 million contract with, had you not gone into that accident, that person is a litigious person, where everybody that he does business with, he ends up suing them and ends up getting everything back and more. And Hashem does not want you to do business with such people and end up losing money as a result. Many times people do big deals and they end up losing more than they gain. You know why? Because they do business with the wrong people. So it's important to know that if there's a certain amount of money that's decreed, that's meant for you, no one in the world can take it from you. And a certain amount of money that doesn't belong to you, no power in the world can give it to you. It doesn't belong to you. Even if you steal that money, Hashem will take it back in one way or the other. So it's important to know that whatever Hashem is doing for you, that's out of your control, because your control is simply whether you're going to do things according to what Hashem said or not. Whether you're going to serve Hashem or not, that's what's up to you. As far as the things that happen in a person's life, whether they'll succeed in money, they'll fail, they'll get married, they'll be single, they'll have kids, not have kids, live, die, all those things are determined by Hashem. So when a person understands that really everything in life is determined by Hashem except whether you're going to serve Hashem or not, then they know that since Hashem wants me to serve Him, and in reality that's the only thing that's in my power and everything is in His power, then surely everything that Hashem is doing to me in my life is in order to entice me to serve Him better. Even if that means that Hashem is giving me a difficulty that makes it more difficult for me to serve Him. It's not because Hashem doesn't want me to serve Him. It's because Hashem wants the difficult servitude from me. He wants me to cry. He wants me to cry. He wants me to learn Torah through suffering. He wants me to still pray to Him when I'm in pain. He wants me to say I love you even when I feel like I'm on fire. He wants me to say that I can't wait. I can't wait to serve you, even if that means that I'm going to be destroyed in the process. He wants me to say thank you, Hashem, for taking everything. He wants me to go through the suffering. And if that's what He wants, and I'm here to serve Him, then what's the problem? This is why the Baal Shem Tov says that if he goes up to Shamayim, and in heaven they decide that they're going to throw him in Gehenom, he's only going to ask them one question. Is that what God wants? And when they tell me yes, he says, I'm going to run to Gehenom. Why? My whole life, my whole point was just to serve Hashem, he said. My whole life was just to serve Hashem. If what Hashem wants for me is to jump into fire and get destroyed, then I'm running. Because my only point in the world is to serve Hashem. So the more a person understands that they're in the world to serve Hashem, and therefore Hashem, whatever he does for you and does to you, is for you to serve him even better than what you're serving him. Which means that when you serve him through pain, that's exactly what he wants. When you serve him through suffering, that's exactly what he wants. When you serve him through prosperity, that's exactly what he wants. When you serve him through every other way, you serve him more, that's exactly what he wants. What he doesn't want is for you not to serve him, not to pray to him, not to learn about him. That's what he doesn't want. So all of the things that he gives you, all of the things that he takes from you, is for you to use those tools to serve him better. And when a person understands that that's the whole point, they got the point in life. They figured out the trick. They figured out the code to life. The cheat code to life. All right, next. Jack said he wrote a song about the heretics. And the heretics say a little bit of manas in my life, a little bit of mezuzah by my side, a little bit of slifkin, all I need, a little bit of Rossman is what I see, a little bit of Mervis in the sun, a little bit of Mazikin all night long, a little bit of Goldberg, here I am, not Mambo number 5, but Gehenom number 7. We're not happy they're going to go to Gehenom. We would love for them to do tshuva, but we'd also like for, whatever happens first. But I get your humor. I like it. It's fine. David is asking, this was a question from last Wednesday. How can one stop procrastinating and be more productive in anything that he does in life? I think the last question answered it. If a person is here to serve Hashem, and they know that Hashem is the one that's running the world, and the whole purpose of you being in this world is to serve Hashem, which is what's going to get you the greatest benefit in history. The greatest benefit ever, that a person should never procrastinate and should constantly do whatever they can to push themselves, to do whatever they can to bring more good to the world. If that means that you having a better job is going to give you the better ability to serve Hashem because you'll be able to live in a better community, then that's what you have to do. If that means you have to wake up earlier, then that's what you need to do. The Shulchan Aruch begins with to wake up early and be zealous to go chase after mitzvot. We learned that from Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu, when Kadosh Baruch Hu told him to do the Akedah with Yitzchak, really Avraham could have done it at any point during the day. Could have done it at any particular time. But Avraham Avinu woke up babokir. He woke up early in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning he woke up to go do the Akedah, even though that means he has to go kill his favorite son, his main son, his real son. He's going to kill him, but he did it early in the morning. Why? Because if I'm here to serve Hashem, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, because at the end it's going to be to my best interest to serve Hashem at the highest level. Same thing with Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was told by Hashem that after this war, you're going to die. So Moshe Rabbeinu did not delay. He literally went to war right away. When the people found out that he's going to die after this war, they didn't want to go to war. They wanted to procrastinate. Moshe Rabbeinu says, no such thing. We have to do the will of Hashem immediately. There's no such thing as procrastinating. We're all here to serve Hashem because serving Hashem is the only purpose we have in the world. If a person doesn't serve Hashem, there's no point for them in the world. As far as to their interest, there's only point for Hashem to use them to do things in the world, but they have no benefit of being in this world if they're not serving Hashem. So if a person is a procrastinator with the things in their life, then they're going to procrastinate with their servitude of Hashem. And if they can procrastinate with the servitude of Hashem, they can think That, okay, if I'm procrastinating with praying for Hashem, if I'm procrastinating with studying Torah, if I'm procrastinating with doing a mitzvah, if I'm procrastinating with giving tzedakah, if I'm procrastinating with all the other things that has to do with Hashem, alongside procrastinating also with work and with marriage and with all the other things, but I'm also procrastinating with Hashem, then guess what? Don't be surprised if Hashem procrastinates by, putting breath in your lung, procrastinates giving you money to eat, procrastinating with sending you things that you want. So what would you feel if Hashem just simply decided, you know what? What? He needs air? Okay, let me wait a few seconds before I give it to him. What? He needs food? He's hungry? You know what? Let me wait a couple of days before I send him food. What? He needs kids? Let me wait 10, 15 years before I send him a child. So a person needs to understand there's a midah keneged midah, there's a measure for measure. It's not a game. It's a simple rule that HaKadosh Baruch Hu institutes in the world. He operates with us the way we operate with him. And there's a measure for measure judgment. If we procrastinate our servitude of Hashem, then surely he's going to, we're bringing procrastination to ourselves. The blessings that we want will be procrastinated. So a person, that thinks about it in that way, obviously does not want Hashem to procrastinate and not give him kids for 20, 30 years. He doesn't want Hashem to procrastinate and not give him food for 2 or 3 days. Doesn't want him to procrastinate with anything. People want everything that they want on demand. So, but they need to know that if they procrastinate with Hashem, then they're going to get a lot of difficulties in their life. Now, a person can now say, yeah, no, I don't procrastinate with Hashem. I just procrastinate with everything else. Not possible. Not possible. It's not possible to not procrastinate with Hashem and procrastinate with everything else. Why? Because first and foremost, the evil inclination, the first thing that it's going to cause a person to procrastinate with is with Hashem, before anything else. People are always going to be more zealous to go and serve this world, go make more money, go find more women, go find more men, go find more honor, go find more materialism, much, much more than they're going to go find Hashem. So there's no such thing as a person is more procrastinating with this world and not procrastinating with Hashem. No, there's a person that's procrastinating, typically is procrastinating with Hashem first. And the other reason why is because when a person does not procrastinate with Hashem, meaning when a person is zealous to go and do the will of Hashem, that in itself, that level of servitude in itself to Hashem makes the person not a procrastinator in everything else. Why? Because the servitude of Hashem requires you to wake up early, requires you to be dedicated, requires you to be organized, requires you to be consistent, persistent, to be someone that's serious. The servitude of Hashem is a full-time job. And that in itself breeds good skills and habits everywhere else. So if a person is a procrastinator, they should know the first thing they are procrastinating is their servitude of Hashem, which will only yield them a procrastination with the things that they want, which is the blessings. And if Hashem says, you know what? Okay, I'll procrastinate your heaven also. How about this? We're not going to send you to heaven for 1,000 years. Instead, we're going to send you somewhere else. Kafakela, Gehenom, all types of other wonderful places that perhaps maybe you don't agree they're wonderful. So a person needs to understand, you can't play games with Hashem. Can't play games with Hashem. Hashem is the king of all kings, and he brought us into this world to work full force. Full force. When a person works for Hashem full force, certainly they're going to have a much more fulfilling life and a much more righteous life. And they'll benefit in every aspect of the world. Okay, last question, Rabotai. It's almost 3 hours. Let's see. Foundation. It's just comments. Okay. Does Hashem expect the nations to slaughter their animals in a quick and painless way? Would it make sense if all slaughterhouses of the nations also use the slaughter method of the Jews? No, they're not obligated to do slaughtering like the Jews. No. The only obligation for the non-Jews is for them not to eat the animal while it's still alive, which unfortunately is something that people in Asia and other places in the world do. They eat animals while they're still alive. This is a violation of the 7 Noahide laws. It's very vicious, very gruesome, disgusting, but unfortunately it happens, it's common even in China and in other places in the world. Where they eat different animals alive. It's a horrible, horrific thing, but nonetheless, it happens. So that's the main law that the Gentiles have. And when it comes to food, they can eat whatever they want as long as it's not alive when they're eating it. As far as how they kill it, it doesn't matter. What I've given the 7 species of Israel are based on many halachic measurements, such as kazait of bread is required to join a zimun. If these fruits return to massive size during the era of Mashiach, as when the 12 spies entered Canaan, then the basis of these measurements will be radically changed. How can this be resolved? No, the measurements that were made where they're using the kazait as a olive and all of the other things that they're using as a fruit is based on what it was, what the fruit was when that measurement was made. It doesn't actually have an actual connection to that fruit. Like if, let's say, instead of it being a zait, there was, I don't know, some other grain that was common that they would use, and that's what they would use. But they chose the kazait because that was the most common, being one of the 7 species. But also that was the proper specific size. So even if things returned to what they were, massive size of grapes and massive size of other vegetables and so on, first and foremost, that does not change the original law that was decreed in the Torah and instituted by the sages, based on the sizes that it was. Everything is based on what it was at the time it's instituted and not what it became. And I'll give you an example. If, let's say, somebody has 2 stamps, okay? He has 2 stamps. Each stamp is worth $1 million, all right? Because there's only 2 stamps like this in the world, and each stamp is worth $1 million. Now he invites, his friend over to the house, and he says, "I want to show you my stamps. Each stamp is $1 million. Why are they $1 million? I don't understand stamps." "Oh, it's $1 million because there's only 2 of them in the world." He says, "Oh, wow, okay, great. Let me see." He takes one of the stamps and he rips it in half. And he says, "What, are you crazy? What are you doing? You owe me money." He goes, "No, actually, you owe me money because according to my calculations," he takes out his calculator, he takes out his iPad, his iTunes, his all these different things, and he has statistical analysis done. He says, "Since now it's the only one in the world, in fact, your stamp is worth $10 million. So, in fact, it's not only do I not owe you $1 million, but actually, you owe me $5 million because I just made you a bunch of money. So I'm not going to take all of it. I made you $8 million. I'm not asking you to give me the whole $8 million. After all, you did keep these stamps, but I'll let you keep $3 million. You give me $5 million. You're still profitable. You have $5 million in your hands." Now, obviously, a person that thinks about this, if they think about it logically, it makes a lot of sense. Technically, he just made him a lot of money. Perhaps you're not going to agree to give him $5 million, but you would think, okay, you know what? Maybe you did me a favor. Now there's only one stamp. Now my stamp is worth $10 million. He goes to an auction. They agree it's worth $10 million. He sells it for $10 million. You would think, oh, you know what? At the very least, you should give him a sale. You should give him $1 million because he's the one that helped him get the price of the stamp that was worth $1 million into $10 million. Even though he lost $1 million, he gained $8 million. So the point is, you think, oh, so maybe you should give him $1 million, give him something of a fee, something of a commission. Absolutely not. Not only does he not owe him any commission for what he did, and the guy owes him money, the guy that ripped the stamp. So the second question comes up is, does he owe him what the stamp was, $1 million when he ripped it, or technically what the stamp is right now? It's a $10 million stamp. Does he owe him $10 million right now? Because technically that's what the stamp is worth right now, $10 million. And the answer is he owes him $1 million. Why? At the time he ripped the stamp, that's what it was worth. It was worth $1 million. And the halacha is determined based on what it was worth at that time and not what it became in the future. Not what it became in the future. And the Gemara in Masechet Sukkah also has a situation where if, let's say, somebody stole a beam and took that beam and put it in a building, build an entire building, Empire State Building, it's a $100 million building. But that beam is holding the whole thing. Now, you can say, oh, that's my beam. I want the beam back. I want you to destroy the whole building. If you don't give me half your building, I want you to destroy the whole building because I want my beam. Either give me half of this $100 million or give me my beam, which would require you to lose the entire $100 million. What is the law over there? The law is, you would think, okay, technically you should pay him. You should pay him. But how much should he pay him? Should he pay him the price of the beam, that's let's say $10,000? Or should he pay him, what he wants, 50% of the money? Because technically the whole building is on this beam. Or should he pay him some other negotiated price? Perhaps $5 million, $2 million. What kind of price should he pay him? The Gemara in Masechet Sukkah said that not only does he not pay him, does he not destroy the building, but he doesn't pay him an ounce more than what the beam was worth at the time he took it. And he does not destroy the building. How much was the beam worth when I took it? $10,000? Yes, I know I stole it. It's not right to steal, but you do not benefit out of my stealing. So I'm simply going to give you, if I can give you the beam itself without destroying what I have, no problem. But if I can't give you the beam, I'm going to give you exactly what it was worth when I took it. $10,000, that's all you get, not a penny more, no interest, no nothing. Why? Because the halacha is determined based on what it was at the time the event took place. So when the sages instituted these specific measurements and used specific things, kazait and so on, they were using them because, again, they also had extrapolations from the Torah, where Torah used specific verses, and they said, this is what it is, this is what it is. So the first thing is, to answer your question is, it was determined when that zait was that size, not when it would be at the time of Mashiach, which is an exceptional time, and not at the time that it was at the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, which is also exceptional time. We don't make halacha based on exceptional times. We make halacha based on the standard time, which is at the time the halacha is made. So that's one. Secondly, even if everything, the fruits grow tremendously, it doesn't mean that all of them will grow. There's still going to be some what we consider normal size, and also some that are extraordinarily blessed. So you'll have a combination of both, thereby not causing any contradictions in the Torah whatsoever, where even what was decreed by the sages and used by the sages originally could easily continue to be instituted at the time of Mashiach when that time comes. Be'ezrat Hashem. Thank you again, everyone, for learning Torah with me. It is late. It's 3 hours we've been talking. Okay, and one more question. If you host a friend and I'm converting, can I force him to accept the Noahide laws? No, you cannot force anybody to accept anything. But if you're hosting him and you invited him to come to you, then you have to tell him we have certain laws I expect you to respect. If you're not going to respect it, either leave or I'm not going to invite you again. But if a person is just shows up at your house, then tell him, same concept. Tell him if you don't respect my laws, then you'll have to leave. But you cannot force anybody to accept anything. Can't force anybody to accept anything. Not Judaism and not Noahide. Okay, last one. Isabel is asking, can you please go through the proper way to do Havdalah? Meaning, we do the prayer, then how much of the wine are we supposed to consume? What do we do if we have left after that amount? Do we need to do a prayer if we decide that we wish to drink it after we put out the candle? And if I may, please explain the best way to take out the candle to do... okay, seven. Okay, so Havdalah is as follows. You have where the Siddur. So you have Havdalah where all Siddurim have a Havdalah in them, and it depends. It depends if you are you have the custom of doing some of the extra blessings or not. There are certain extra blessings that could make Havdalah take 4, 5, 6 times more time, but they're spiritually more extraordinary. And there's people that just fulfill the basic requirements, which is just say some of the basic blessings, the Kosh Yeshua Esau, B'Shem Hashem Ikra, Ana Hashem Oshiana. You go to that nusach, you don't do any of the additions. And again, that's everybody has their own customs of what they add or not. But the basic requirements of the Havdalah is first to do the Borei Pri HaGefen. You do the blessing of Borei Pri HaGefen, but at that time you do not drink. You don't drink the wine, but you look at the wine to see your reflection, especially a reflection of your forehead. The Chachamim said that someone that does not find the reflection of their forehead on the wine, meaning after seriously looking, sometimes it takes a few tries or you have to look at a few different shades, but someone does not see a reflection of their forehead on the thing, should be concerned for their life. So when you do the blessing of the Gefen, you simply look at the wine and see your reflection. You do not drink. After that, you do the blessing on the Besamim. The Besamim is you take something, you smell it, something that smells good, incense of some kind. You can use pretty much anything that smells good. You smell it, and you have to make sure that you know what it is, whether it's Atzeh Besamim, Asveh Besamim, or Mineh Besamim. If it's some type of tree of some kind, a branch of a tree, then it's a Atzeh Besamim. If it's some type of flower, then it's Asveh Besamim. If it's some type of incense or something like that, then it's Mineh Besamim. So make sure you do the right blessing. And then you do the Borei Me'orah Esh. Now the Esh you light before you start Havdalah, which means that you have to start Havdalah after the Shabbat has ended already. You don't start Havdalah before Shabbat ended. So you light the fire before you start Havdalah. And when you do the blessing of Borei Me'orah Esh, you take your fingers, you take your hand like this, you cover your thumb, and you put your hand next to the fire, not too close. You don't have to burn yourself or anything, but close enough that you can see reflection of the fire against your fingernails, making them more shiny and so on. And then you turn it like this, meaning the opposite of what my hand is, where you constantly are seeing the back of the hand, but now this time without the covered thumb. Some people have different customs. The point is to see the fingernails, which is to remind yourself that you're going from the holy to the mundane, just like Adam HaRishon made a mistake of making a mistake in Gan Eden. You should know that he, as a result, went down in his significance. You are going from the holy to mundane, but don't go down. Meaning stay holy the whole week. Stay holy with your Kedusha, stay holy with your Torah, and so on and so forth. So that's in essence the reminder from that fire part. Then you do the last blessing, which is Baruch Atah Hashem Avdi ben Kodesh Lechol, ben Or Lechoshech, ben Yisrael Amim, uben Yom HaShevi L'Shesh Dimei Maaseh, Baruch Atah Hashem Avdi ben Kodesh Lechol. That's that blessing. Then you drink pretty much the whole cup, whatever you have. It should be 3 ounces. Should be 3 ounces. You drink the whole cup, as quickly as you can. That's really what you're supposed to be doing. You're not supposed to be like sipping it and then, giving it to people or anything, or sipping it and like drinking it the whole night. Supposed to, in essence, drink the whole thing. Drink the whole thing. That's why a person that can't drink the whole thing shouldn't, get one of these cups that's too big, that's like 6 ounces or 7 ounces, and it's tough for them. If a person has a difficulty drinking wine, they could drink grape juice instead, just as long as they drink the quantity. It should be 3 ounces is what they should drink, and they should consume it as fast as possible. Literally should be within a few seconds. It's not like, don't take like 10 minutes or 20 minutes walking around with it or anything like that. Like you should drink it as soon as possible, and it should be 3 ounces. Now, if a person cannot drink wine, they could drink grape juice. Kosher grape juice is very common. You should drink it. Ideally, you should drink wine, and not just wine, but wine that's lo mevushal. So it's best to drink lo mevushal wine. That's uncooked wine. That's ideal for Havdalah. Okay? But if you can't handle wine, it hurts you or something like that, which is common, then you either have to find a wine that doesn't hurt you or simply drink grape juice. But even if grape juice affects you, then give somebody else the wine to drink. Give somebody else the wine to drink, or perhaps even give them the thing to do the Havdalah altogether. But if you want to do the Havdalah and somebody else drink the wine, you technically can do that. If that's the case, they can drink it. That's that. Now, after you have drunk the wine, then you do the last blessing, which is the Me'ayin Shalosh. That is the blessing for drinking wine. And that's it. After you've completed that blessing, you're officially done with Havdalah. Now, some people will say, yeah, no, Havdalah is really finished after you drink the wine. Yes, technically you're right. Havdalah is finished after you drink the wine, but you still have to do an ending blessing for drinking the wine. So you have to do that. Now, what about the candle? The way we do it in my house is as follows. I learned from Rav Mutzafi, Shichyeh. He is an extraordinary Talmid Chacham, one of the head Talmidim of Rav Tzion Abba Shaul. He's the son of a Rav Salma Mutzafi, which was one of the Gedolei Ador also, and a huge Mekubal. And Rav Mutzafi says that people that pour their wine on the fire of the candle to shut off the fire are desecrating the wine. They're desecrating the wine. It's inappropriate to pour it from the glass, from the cup, on the candle to pour it out. It's not appropriate. It's desecrating the wine. So how do you shut off the wine? There's a couple of ways. One way that you can do is that typically when there's a custom that people have to fill up their cup of wine all the way to the top. Now, of course, unless you have an extremely steady hand, like a sniper from the Navy SEALs, typically you're going to hold the cup and there's going to be some wine that pours. Now, let that wine pour onto that plate that's under you. Now, that wine poured onto the cup by itself. You're not pouring it yourself. It poured by itself because, it's moving. That wine that's on the plate, you're allowed to use that wine to shut off the candle. That wine you can use. Because that's not wine that was part of the blessing. That's not wine that is, in essence, that was supposed to be drunk. That's wine that poured out. That's fine. That's fine. Because no one's going to drink that wine. That's not really wine that people drink. So that wine you can use to shut off the candle. You could use that wine for the sgula of touching the wine and then putting it on your head for memory and all types of other sgulot that have to do with that particular wine that poured by itself. Not that you're pouring it and now half the glass is on the cup and you think that you're a genius. No. The wine fell by itself because you filled it up to the cup, like it says in Tehillim, that the wine, the kos is the cup is filled all the way up to the top, and you can do that. But you shouldn't fill it up to the cup if you're not going to drink it. If you know you're not going to drink the whole thing, you're only going to drink the minimum requirement and half the cup is going to be wasted, that's not good either. You have to drink it. Now, or if you know that wine is going to, fall on your clothes, that's also not a good thing. The story with Rashi came to a community and they had him do Havdalah, and they started pouring the wine. And he told them, "Why are you ruining my clothes?" And they said, "What are you talking about, Kvod Harav?" He says, "You're pouring enough wine, that wine's going to spill on my clothes. You're ruining my clothes." So sometimes, people want to do these gulot, but they cause more damage than good. So you pour the wine. If you are going to fill up to the cup, assuming you're going to drink that, and a little bit of that wine falls onto that plate that goes under the cup, that's perfectly fine. You can use that wine to shut off the candle. I don't do that. What I do is it's very simple. I clap on top of the fire as many times as it takes. 1, 2 times, 5 times, 10 times. It's a fun thing to do with the kids. Everybody claps, and then I tell everybody that they shut off the fire, even though obviously they're little and they didn't do it, but they did it. 1 week it's Yosef, another week it's Ovadia, another week it's Sarah, another week it's Ima, even if she wasn't there. It's somebody always doing it. Everybody gets the credit. Everybody has fun. It's a nice way to finish Shabbat, and that's it. We clap and we give ourselves another excuse to be happy. That's it. That's how we do it. We clap in order to shut off the fire. That's how we do it. Some people, like I said, do with the wine, but you have to be careful not to pour the wine from the cup on the fire. Rav Mutzapi says it's terrible. You don't want to listen to Rav Mutzapi, you want to listen to something else, find another source. Anyone that does something else, anyone that's pouring the wine from the cup on their fire, please find a legitimate source in the Torah, that a sage that says it's okay, not your local rabbi. Find it in a sefer. Says it's okay, then you have something to rely on. Forget about proving me right, proving me wrong. It's not my law. If you have a source that says it's okay, not your local rabbi, it's in a serious sefer by a gadol, and that's no less than Rav Mutzapi, that says it's okay for you to pour it directly from the cup, you could do that too. But if you don't have it, you don't have nothing to rely on other than people's habits, I wouldn't recommend it. So with that being said, I think that should give people a nice Havdalah. Of course, after that Havdalah is finished, people should, try to already get ready for Seudah Revi'it, the fourth meal that's after Shabbat. If you have kids, perhaps you have to put them to sleep first. But either way, I'd say the Seudah Revi'it, and that's it. That's Havdalah. Tiskul mitzvot rabot. Thank you again for the questions, for the B'siyata Dishmaya, the answers, the learning, and B'ezrat Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu yivרך et kulchem chaim arukim shlemim meleim Torah, mitzvot, gmilut chasadim, nachat ubracha, and Shabbat Shalom.
אני מברך את הרבנים, רגע. אני מברך את הרבנים, הרב ירון ראובן, הרב אפרים כחלון, ראשי ארגון בעזרת השם, שהלכו בפי עליון, שעלו מעלה, יהיה להם ברכה והצלחה, הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא בישועות ליבם לטובה ולברכה, שבכל מה שיפנו ישכילו ויצליחו, יזכרו לעשות כאלה וכאלה, הודיעו תורה לאדירה, אמן ואמן.
בעזרת השם רשת בכל הארץ. הוא היהודי הזה, הוא היה מיליונר, סגר את כל הביזנס, אמר אני משקיע פה בעולמה של תורה.
איפה הוא גר?
בפלורידה.
פלורידה, איפה זה פלורידה? באמריקה.
מיאמי. כן, ליד. אנחנו שם עכשיו הולכים להקים קהילה ספרדית גדולה.
תעבירו מה שבירכתי אותו.
כן, קהילה ספרדית גדולה.